Have you ever craved a simple, peaceful life? But fate is never that kind. Imagine rejecting the class idol, only to watch her transform into a psychotic Yandere holding a tarot card that predicts your death. And that is exactly the nightmare that was about to unfold. Her grip crushed his arm like a vice. Young-jin scrambled to escape, terrified as the beautiful girl warped into a grotesque monster hungry for his flesh. But how could such madness exist in a world that was supposed to be perfectly normal? Somewhere in a shattered dimension, the protagonist drops his groceries, paralyzed by fear. He looks up, his voice trembling as he stammers out the impossible. A giant snake has descended upon the city. Massive claws crush the adjacent building like it is made of paper. The young man's mind goes blank with shock. That isn't a snake. It is the terrifying face of a dragon. Screaming in pure terror, he spins around to flee, only to slam hard into a stranger's chest. The protagonist looks up, gasping for air. A shadowy figure stands there, two massive swords strapped to his back. The stranger corrects him cold. It is a dragon, not a snake. Suddenly, the world dissolves. Young-jin bolts upright in bed, gasping as if he had just run a marathon. Was it really just a nightmare? Reality crashes back in, but a bone-deep chill lingers in his body. Shaking off the fear, the young man cranks up the thermostat. He wanders through his silent house, heading for the kitchen to start his day. He prepares a bowl for breakfast, only to face a depressing reality. The rice bag is empty. With a sigh, he tosses the useless packaging into the bin. He heads to the bathroom to wash up. Young-jin tells himself he will just have to find something to eat later. Outside, he carries a bag of trash down the street until a movement catches his eye. A stray dog is frantically rummaging through his garbage. A strange, uneasy feeling settles in his gut. He tosses his rice bag into the can, but his gaze lingers on the starving animal. He steps into a convenience store to buy his own breakfast, but as he scans the shelves, something else grabs his attention. A bag of dog food sitting on the top rack. The protagonist hesitates. It is too expensive for his budget, but his conscience wins out, and he approaches the stray with the food in hand. The little dog eats, and the protagonist smiles gently. He tells the pup he is a good boy and to stop eating trash. But strangely, the dog leaves the sausage untouched. The animal just stares as Young-jin walks away. The protagonist continues his trek through the city, popping open his earbud case. He drowns out the world with music and checks his phone. A lonely notification pops up. Happy birthday. The young man gazes up at the towering city skyline, feeling small. Meanwhile, at Sampo High School, the first-year students are ordered to shut the doors. A classmate laughs, claiming someone is definitely an ENTP personality type because they never plan anything. Another girl calls out to Young-ji, asking where she is headed. She replies that she is going to Class 5. Rumor has it there is a tarot reading happening there. She asks Ji-hee to give her a review later. The others gossip that it is intriguing, but necessary, even though the price is steep at 10,000 won. Young-jin listens in, wondering how she can scam that much money in a single session. It is no wonder certain cults keep recruiting people. He wonders if his classmates are just incredibly naive. Logic dictates that if it were real, everyone born on the same day would share the same fate. If they just used their brains for 1 second, they would realize how absurd it is. He has a million sarcastic comments, but he decides it is safer to keep his cynicism to himself. Suddenly, a heavy hand slaps his back. A friend shouts, "Happy birthday." Young-jin asks what hit him, and his friend grins, revealing a fresh birthday bun. It is not much, but it is a sincere gift. The friend admits he did not know Young-jin's taste, so he bought a variety pack. The protagonist stares blankly. He asks if he is seriously getting bread for his birthday. His friend laughs it off, saying it is a happy birthday with a bun special. Young-jin softens and offers the snacks to the group. He asks for a drink and grabs a juice box to wash it down. They chat about grabbing real food after school and ask if Young-jin has family dinner plans. Instantly, the protagonist's expression goes dark. He deflects, asking who even goes out for dinner on their birthday anymore. He grumbles that they should just get school over with. Suddenly, the classroom door swings open. A classmate rushes in, wishing the protagonist a happy birthday with a frantic look in his eyes. He warns Young-jin to be extremely careful today. He had a dream where his teeth shattered and everyone around him was slaughtered. The protagonist jokes, asking if he grinds his teeth in his sleep, but the classmate is dead serious. He insists his dreams always come true, just like the last tragedy. His friends roll their eyes, annoyed by the sudden gloomy atmosphere. They decide to make a bet for 10,000 won that nothing bad will happen. One friend slams down a bet. 10,000 won says he will get hurt. Another joins in, betting 10,000 won that Young-jin gets injured today. Playfully tapping his neck, the boys start to surround him, turning it into a roughhouse game. The protagonist laughs and makes a run for it. Suddenly, a broom whacks both of his friends on the shoulder. A voice cuts through the noise. He bets 5,000 won that Young-jin stays safe, promising to protect him. The friends immediately start arguing over the stakes. The protagonist opens the door to escape the chaos. He shakes his head, thinking his classmates have way too much money to burn. Suddenly, a girl sprints past and crashes into his shoulder. Cards fly from her hands, scattering across the floor. The protagonist apologizes, but she murmurs that it is fine. He crouches to help her gather them, but one card freezes him in place. His eyes lock onto the image. It is the hanged man from the tarot deck, the symbol of ultimate loss and suffering. He hands over the stack, saying he got everything. But before he can pull away, the girl suddenly seizes his hands in a vice-like grip. Confusion washes over Young-jin as he demands to know what she's doing. But the girl remains silent, her eyes locked intensely on the tarot cards spread before her. Young-jin can only watch, trying to decipher the strange ritual unfolding in his hands. Suddenly, the girl breaks the silence. She asks if today marks the day of his birth. Taken aback, the protagonist confirms that yes, it is indeed his birthday. Without skipping a beat, she snatches the deck from his hands. She declares that she will read his fortune, her voice carrying a mysterious weight as she tells him to draw a card. She chides him not to be boring and to just make a choice. Young-jin tries to back out, his skepticism rising. He has zero interest in these superstitious games. But the atmosphere shifts. A classmate warns him that he hasn't escaped yet and should stay exactly where he is. If he moves, he's risking serious injury. The threat hangs heavy in the air. The protagonist ignores the warning and bolts. But his friend shouts that the teacher is approaching. In the chaos, the girl notices a single card lying forgotten on the floor. She crouches down to retrieve it. Her eyes widen as she recognizes the image. It is Major Arcana number 13, the Death card, a symbol that signifies not just an end, but a violent rebirth. Another student asks what Wi-Soo is doing down there, but she ignores the question completely, turning on her heel and disappearing down the hall with her friends, the ominous card in hand. Time drags on in the classroom. The teacher drones on about the way of the world. Young-jin diligently takes notes, fighting the heaviness in his eyelids until sleep finally claims him. The teacher's sharp voice cuts through the air. He asks if the class needs a blast of cold air to wake up, and orders a student to crack open the window. The protagonist blinks awake, glancing at his desk mate. He whispers to ask what page they are on, joking about his nap, while the teacher continues the lecture in the background. That is when he sees it. Something unnatural flickers past the window. Young-jin jolts in his seat, his heart hammering. What on earth was that? Before he can process it, the teacher demands his name. He realizes he has been staring blankly into the hallway for too long. His friend quickly covers for him, announcing that it is Young-jin. The teacher asks sarcastically if he wants the hallway window open too. Young-jin declines, trying to explain that something is out there. But when he looks again, the corridor is empty. The teacher demands to know who is sitting next to Young-jin, clearly annoyed. Meanwhile, the protagonist rubs his eyes, wondering if his mind is playing tricks on him. Unable to shake the feeling, he opens the back door and slips out of the classroom. His mind races, replaying the shadowy figure he saw earlier. Suddenly, a presence looms behind him. A hand taps the back of his neck, and a voice wishes him a happy birthday. The tone is anything but friendly. Young-jin spins around, demanding to know what the problem is. Standing there is Seo-woo, smirking as he simply announces his presence. The protagonist is caught off guard. Seo-woo sneers, asking if Young-jin can't do something about his messy hair. He claims he hates having to pretend he even knows someone who looks like that. Young-jin thinks the guy is being completely obnoxious. Seo-woo catches the look in his eyes and his smirk fades into annoyance. He asks what is up with that glare. It is as if Young-jin offended him just by existing. Seo-woo assumes the protagonist is clueless about his place. Suddenly, Hee-soo appears and yanks Young-jin back. She steps between them, demanding to know who this guy is and what exactly he thinks he is doing. With her boyfriend, the declaration leaves both boys completely stunned. Seo-woo looks between them, incredulous. He asks if Young-jin is really her boyfriend, assuming this has to be some kind of twisted joke. But the girl stands her ground. The protagonist stares at her. It is the tarot card girl from earlier. Seo-woo asks if she is serious because the situation is laughable. Hee-soo retorts that the only ridiculous thing here is his attitude. Seo-woo's face darkens with rage, but he knows he can't hit a girl. He shifts his focus, patting the protagonist's shoulder with mock sympathy. He apologizes, saying it is actually great news since Lee Hee-soo is loaded with cash. He taunts Young-jin, saying he won't be poor anymore now that he has a sugar mama. With one last provoking smirk, Seo-woo turns and walks away. Hee-soo immediately asks if he is okay, concerned about what the bully said. But the protagonist recoils, pulling away from her. He demands to know what she is doing, reminding her that he is not her boyfriend. He asks her frantically what is going to happen when rumors about this start spreading. Through the school, Hee-soo smiles, unfazed. She replies that she would actually love that. Then, she drops the bomb. She asks if she can date Young-jin for real. The protagonist asks if she is pranking him. The girl shakes her head, her expression earnest. She says she really likes him. Young-jin shuts it down instantly, rejecting her and apologizing. He leaves her standing there, watching him with a cold, unreadable expression. But it doesn't end there. Over the next few days, she becomes his shadow, following him everywhere. She even slips him a strawberry juice box covered in cute notes. His friend tells him to just admit it, claiming he can't hide their relationship anymore. The friend presses him, asking if he is really dating Hee-soo. The protagonist denies it vehemently, but no one seems to believe him. Another friend interrupts, shouting that his girlfriend is waiting at the classroom door. Her voice rings out, calling Young-jin's name. The protagonist freezes in shock. He wonders why this is happening so fast. She continues to trail him down the hallway, relentless. Finally, Young-jin snaps. He stops dead in his tracks and warns her to cut it out before he loses his temper. The girl pleads with him, but Young-jin asks if she is crazy. Hee-soo looks him in the eye and says she will just try harder. The protagonist counters that she doesn't need to try because they don't even know each other. But the girl insists that she loves him. Young-jin sighs, saying he will handle this his way. He breaks up with her right then and there. He declares that from this moment on, they are total strangers. He walks away, leaving her alone in the hallway. The girl buries her face in her hands. Later that day, the protagonist walks home, checking his phone as a flood of messages lights up the screen. His friends are blowing up the group chat, saying he is dating Hee-soo and talking about double dates with her rich friends. They tell him to stop playing hard to get and admit it. The protagonist furiously types that it is a lie and hits send. He looks up from his screen and freezes. The dog is there again, sitting in front of his house. The little puppy stares at him with an intensity that feels almost human. Young-jin assumes it is just hungry and hasn't moved on. He walks past it to his front door, but as he enters the house, he can't help but glance back at the creature one last time. Young-jin stepped into the silence of his apartment, setting the heavy grocery bags down on the floor with a weary sigh. He stared at his reflection in the mirror, lost in thought, until a single drop of water splashed against the glass. It was a signal. Outside, the heavens opened up, unleashing a relentless downpour. Moved by the pitiful sight of the rain, Young-jin grabbed a towel for the stray dog he had brought inside, but the pup had other ideas. It shook violently, spraying water everywhere and soaking the boy instead, before scampering off. Finding the little guy burrowed snugly under a blanket, Young-jin chuckled softly. Making yourself right at home, aren't you? A rare, genuine smile spread across his tired face. He set out a bowl of food for the creature. Watching it eat, he murmured, "Seeing you like this, it feels like your owner abandoned you." He paused, his eyes darkening. Or maybe, like me, you never had one to begin with. Finishing its meal, the dog trotted over. It climbed onto his legs, pressing close and staring deeply into the boy's face with intelligent eyes. Then the animal placed both paws squarely on his chest, scratching at his shirt. Young-jin tilted his head, confused. "Hey, what's the problem, little guy?" Today had been full of surprises, and this dog was the biggest one yet. Suddenly, the animal froze. Its gaze locked onto the window. Following the dog's stare, Young-jin saw a dark silhouette looming outside. The dog erupted into frantic barking. "What's wrong now? Shh, quiet down." Young-jin hissed, trying to calm the beast. Knock, knock. A heavy sound echoed from the front door. Who would visit at this hour? Puzzled, he crept to the entrance and peered through the peephole. "It's me," a muffled voice called out. Young-jin jumped back, startled. "Who is it?" he demanded, heart racing. She repeated the question, then finally answered. "It's Wi-Soo." Hesitantly, Young-jin unlocked the door. There she stood, Wi-Soo, completely drenched from head to toe. "How did you find this place?" he asked, bewildered. Wi-Soo smirked through the rain. "Think of it as the concept of a girlfriend coming back after being heartlessly rejected by her boyfriend." Young-jin's annoyance flared, but it vanished the moment he really looked at her. She was shivering, soaked to the very bone. He couldn't just leave her there. "Wait a minute," he sighed, closing the door briefly. He returned holding an umbrella and tossed her a dry towel. "Here, use this." She ignored the towel, her voice trembling. "Share the umbrella with me. It's freezing out here." Instead, Young-jin stripped off his own coat and draped it over her shoulders. "Put this on," he commanded, his voice stern. "Now tell me, how did you know where I live?" "I followed you," she admitted without a shred of shame. Young-jin stared at her in disbelief. "Are you crazy? You followed me all the way home? Why are you doing this to me?" he snapped, frustration boiling over. "Stop acting weird and just tell me what you want." Wi-Soo tilted her head, her eyes gleaming. "If I tell you, will you give it to me?" Young-jin crossed his arms. "I'm listening." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "I want you." Young-jin blinked, stunned. "Are you serious? Go home." He scoffed, turning away. "Do I look that easy to you? Is it money you want?" She pressed. He turned back, irritated, until she dropped the bomb. 100,000 won per hour, just to go out with me. The boy stared at her. Is this some kind of sick joke? A student wouldn't have that kind of cash. Wi-Soo's expression didn't change. "I do." She flashed her phone screen. A bank account balance showing 11 million won. Young-jin's eyes widened. Is this actually real? You've lost your mind, he muttered. "Do your parents know about this?" Ping. His phone buzzed. She had already sent the money. He began to question his own sanity. She made it look so effortless. It was deeply unsettling. "Fine," he relented nervously. "We'll do this until the bus comes. But we act like strangers." "Worried about rumors?" Wi-Soo asked innocently. Then her tone shifted. "We could do it for free, you know, since Young-jin doesn't have parents anyway." "That was a secret among your friends," she added, a sly smile playing on her lips. "So you have to treat me well." Young-jin froze. The air grew heavy around him. Wi-Soo extended a hand. "My hand, it's very cold." He stared at it, clenching his fist until his knuckles turned white. "Get lost," he growled, the anger rising in his throat. "I'm sending the money back right now." He thought she had gone crazy for a second. "Take the umbrella and go to school," he barked. Wi-Soo's face twisted in disgust. "I hate girls. I hate money. Pretending to be human. It costs too much." "You're just a boy," she continued, her voice dropping into something unnatural. "A boy who will soon be in grave danger." Young-jin frowned. "What do you mean?" "It's going to happen today." She pulled out a card. "My tarot never lies. Your time is up." Young-jin shook his head. "Get a grip, will you?" Suddenly, the girl screamed, her voice distorting. "No, you get a grip. It's frustrating. All you have is this empty shell of a body, yet you're still so arrogant." Young-jin couldn't process the madness spewing from her mouth. "You really are crazy," he spat, turning to leave. "You are in danger today," she shrieked. "You must give your body to me." Before he could react, she lunged, grabbing his arm with inhuman strength. The umbrella clattered to the pavement. She tackled him to the wet ground. What are you doing?" Young-jin yelled, but a searing pain shot through his arm. Then the realization hit him like a truck. The thing holding him down was no longer human. A monstrous, guttural voice rasped his name. "Young-jin, were my hands cold?" Terror seized his heart. The creature grinned, its face twisting. "They were cold because you didn't hold them fast enough." What is this? Young-jin's mind raced. Special effects, makeup, but deep down, he knew the truth. Wi-Soo was still in there, buried under a nightmare. The beast loomed over him. "I will ask one last time," it hissed, drool mixing with the rain. "Will you give up your body? Answer me, yes or no." 3 seconds, it snarled, starting the countdown immediately. Young-jin stared into the abyss of its eyes. 2, 3. As the number left its lips, Young-jin bolted. Adrenaline flooded his veins. Behind him, the monster gave chase, sprinting on Wi-Soo's twisted legs. Wake up. He screamed internally. What kind of nightmare is this? Quan Young-jin, the monster roared, winding up for a killing blow. It smashed the pavement where he stood a second ago, sending debris flying. Desperate, the boy leaped into the air. Young-jin is about to meet a gruesome end, plummeting through the air. But suddenly, a monstrous grip snatches him. The creature sneers, boasting that it has finally caught its prey. However, the abomination suddenly collapses. Its stolen legs Wi-Soo's legs give out. Young-jin hits the pavement hard. He staggers to his feet, his spine screaming in agony. The creature isn't finished. It drags its twisted form forward using only its arms, scrabbling across the asphalt like a demon. A chilling realization hits Young-jin. This nightmare is terrifyingly real. Adrenaline floods his veins. If that thing catches him, he is dead meat. He spots a narrow alleyway and dives into the shadows, his lungs burning as he gasps for air. He glances back into the consuming darkness. The gap is too tight. There is no way that monstrosity can squeeze through here. Thinking he is safe, he collapses onto the dirty ground. But safety is an illusion. A voice drips with malice from the shadows, asking if he really thought this would stop her. A grotesque hand snakes toward him. Young-jin freezes in pure terror. The monster mocks him, clicking its tongue at his frail, skinny frame. Young-jin tries to scramble away, but his body betrays him. His legs refuse to move, paralyzed by fear. The creature's cold fingers graze his scalp. It begins a psychological assault, ridiculing his pathetic existence living in a filthy basement, hiding his poverty from his friends. Every word cuts deep into his misery. Desperate, Young-jin opens his mouth to scream for help. But the night is silent. No savior is coming. The beast taunts him, urging him to look around at his empty world. It whispers poison into his ear, telling him to surrender. Why fight for a life worth nothing? It offers a lie answer, and perhaps he lives. But Young-jin's survival instinct ignites. He snaps out of the trance, tears himself free, and bolts. The monster roars his name, baffled by his defiance. It never said it would kill him. It only demands possession. All he has to do is surrender his physical vessel, submit, and the pain ends. The creature commands him to return, its voice layering with hypnotic force. When he refuses, it unleashes a kinetic blast, slamming into him. Young-jin's world goes black as he crumples to the ground. The monster pauses, staring down at its own twisted claws. It hisses in frustration. The plan was a clean transfer, but the boy's resistance forced it to damage the very prize it sought. Fury erupts from the creature. It laments the damage, calling it a waste of a perfectly good vessel, but realizes it is too late to turn back now. Drifting in the void, Young-jin questions reality. Is this the end? As he reflects on his hopeless life, a dark thought surfaces. Perhaps death is a mercy compared to his struggle. But then, clarity strikes. the recurring nightmares, the omens, they weren't just superstitions. They were warnings. The monster makes a final decision. If it cannot possess Young-jin intact, it will consume him completely. It unhinges its jaw, preparing to devour his soul. Young-jin closes his eyes, accepting his grim fate. Suddenly, a blur of motion cuts through the darkness. The stray dog charges in, leaping straight at the abomination with supernatural speed. With a single, thunderous blow, the creature is obliterated. As the dust settles, the dog's form shimmers and transforms. Standing there is a powerful shaman. Young-jin witnesses this miracle with his fading consciousness. The mysterious savior now stands tall, his presence overwhelming the lingering evil. The shaman calmly wipes his blade. He recites the ancient calendar, the year of Gabjin, month of Jengmyo, day of Byongan. He turns to the boy, wishing Young-jin a happy birthday, and reveals a shocking truth. He is the boy's ancestor. Time skips forward. Young-jin gasps awake in his own bed, drenched in cold sweat. The room stiflingly hot. Restless, he grabs his phone. The screen is flooded with notifications. One stands out from his friend Song-gun. "Did you get your ass kicked yesterday?" Young-jin checks the time and panic sets in. He overslept. He scrambles out of bed, snatching his uniform in a frenzy. A flash of memory halts him: the monster, the alley, the pain. He looks down at his hand, the one that should be crushed. It is pristine, completely regenerated. He is alive. It feels impossible. But the most disturbing part lingers in his mind. The monster wore the face of Wi-Soo. His phone buzzes again. It is his teacher, summoning him to meet near the Sampo High School statue later. At the school gate, a teacher grumbles about broken equipment. Young-jin walks past, his heart pounding. Will she be here? Will Wi-Soo show her face today? He lets out a heavy sigh, trying to blend in. The morning drags on until the lunch bell finally liberates the students. Gossip floats through the hallways. A group of girls whispers about Wi-Soo, complaining that she's acting strange and insisting on reading everyone's fortunes. They call it annoying, unaware of the danger. Young-jin peers through her classroom window. There she is, chatting and laughing as if nothing happened. How can she be so calm? He debates confronting her to uncover the truth of last night. Suddenly, Song-gun cuts in. He calls Young-jin out for arriving at lunch and ignoring all his texts, accusing him of prioritizing his crush over his friends. Young-jin stammers a denial, claiming he was just busy. But he freezes inside the classroom. The girl turns, her eyes locked directly onto his. Song-gun mercilessly mocks him for being a simp. Adjusting his glasses, he looks down at Young-jin, asking why he's crouching like a frightened animal. He teases Young-jin, asking if making eye contact got him excited. He admits he is jealous, but seeing Young-jin groveling on the floor is just pathetic. The awkwardness fades as the school day finally comes to a close. Walking home, Young-jin's mind races. The memories are fragmented. He remembers facing death, but the time between the shaman's appearance and waking up in bed is a complete void. Logic says it was a nightmare. That would explain everything. But if it was just a dream, how does he explain the 100,000 won he received from Wi-Soo? He considers demanding answers from her, but he hesitates, looking at his arm. It looks perfectly normal, making him doubt his own sanity. He ends up in the nurse's office. The nurse looks him over, puzzled. She finds nothing wrong physically and asks if he ate something bad, assuming it's just indigestion. The bell saves him from further questions. Young-jin leaves, clutching his phone, realizing he spent the entire day in a daze, absorbing absolutely nothing from his classes. He turns a corner, passing a doorway. Suddenly, a voice cuts through the air. "Excuse me." It is Wi-Soo. Young-jin jumps out of his skin, apologizing instinctively. She smiles, claiming she heard he was at the teacher's lounge and waited for him. Young-jin stares at her, terrified. Is stalking her new hobby? And more importantly, how can she act so terrifyingly normal? The girl stands there trembling, whispering that she never meant to be a burden. Her voice is heavy with sincere regret. The protagonist scans the area with sharp, paranoid eyes. Seeing they are alone, he coldly insists they move to a crowd, knowing she could snap and attack at any second. She desperately tries to deny it, claiming a ghost possessed her body earlier. It sounds like a long, crazy story, but he notices a shift in the atmosphere. Tears well up as she apologizes for hurting him. She bows her head, repeating how truly sorry she is. But right behind her, a shadow looms. Young-jin spots a stone statue manifesting out of thin air. He demands answers, but the girl is oblivious to the horror behind her. He realizes with a jolt that is the guardian statue from the main gate. Suddenly, the stone figure animates, crouching low before launching itself like a missile straight at them. Wi-Soo screams for the protagonist to run. Panic explodes as they both sprint for their lives, desperate to escape the living stone. Young-jin demands to know what she triggered this time. The girl pleads innocence, but he snaps back that she pulled this exact stunt yesterday. Wi-Soo promises to explain everything if they survive. She swears it wasn't her doing, but the work of a vengeful spirit named Sasaki. Young-jin tells her to shut up and save her breath, because the statue is gaining on them with lethal speed. Suddenly, he spots a lifeline, a cart overflowing with basketballs. Unleashing his fury, the protagonist hurls the balls in a rapid-fire barrage. The projectiles fly toward the spirit, but the monster plants its feet and leaps, soaring over the massive attack with terrifying agility. The heavy stone lands with a thud, forcing the duo to frantically change direction. Young-jin shouts that they need witnesses, but the girl reaches into her jacket. She pulls out a bag of red beans and hurls them at the athletic monstrosity. The spirit's eyes roll back, glowing white. It raises a stone hand, effortlessly blocking the exorcism attempt. Young-jin asks what she thinks she is doing, but then realization hits they are near the school exit. He screams for her to get through the gate. The statue charges like a bull as the protagonist slams the metal gate shut just in time. They cling to the bars, lungs burning, gasping for air. The monster halts, staring them down with hollow eyes. It turns to leave, and they dare to hope it gave up until Wi-Soo notices something chilling. The statue rips the flagpole from the roof, wielding it like a pole vault. The protagonist stares in disbelief. This thing has completely lost its mind. He scans for a weapon and spots a utility cart. The athletic statue hurtles toward them, but the protagonist shoves Wi-Soo out of the kill zone. With perfect timing, he drives the cart forward, slamming it into the airborne statue and knocking it off balance. The spirit crashes into a pile of trash, pinned to the ground, but the victory is short-lived. The statue rises, dusting itself off, visibly annoyed that its stone body is dirty. The protagonist signals to retreat, but the spirit blurs into motion. It appears right in front of him, striking with extraordinary speed and hoisting him into the air by his throat. The statue stares into his soul with cold malice while the protagonist groans, dangling helplessly in its crushing grip. Wi-Soo begs it to stop, but the breathless Young-jin just forces a defiant smile. Out of options, the girl reaches into her jacket one last time. She reveals a sacred, blessed bracelet. She shouts to get the spirit's attention, and the monster turns its freezing glare upon her. Wi-Soo throws the beads, and they detonate upon impact. A holy blast of light shatters against the monster's face, forcing it to drop Young-jin. The monster recoils, clutching its face in agony. Wi-Soo rushes over, asking if he is okay, but the protagonist bluntly says no. They limp away from the scene. Safe inside a junk shed, the girl flicks a lighter open. Young-jin sarcastically remarks that she really should have led with that move earlier. He squints, noticing the strange item in her hand. The girl explains she is lighting exorcism incense. The protagonist watches warily as she performs a ritual, pulling various occult items from her pockets like a shaman. She tears strips of cloth and ties them to his wrist. She warns him that this seal will protect him, but he must not remove it under any circumstances until midnight. Young-jin stares at the bracelet with cold skepticism. He tells her she is undeniably weird and she has to know it. The girl admits she knows how it looks, but she swears she is innocent of the chaos. She asks if they can talk properly after school, but the protagonist shuts her down instantly. Even if the possession was real, he wants no part of this. The facts are simple. Ever since he crossed paths with her, his life has turned into a nightmare of strange events. The girl tries to argue, desperate to prove it isn't her fault. Young-jin thanks her for the save, but he cuts the cord. None of this would happen without her, and they need to stop pretending to be friends. The girl falls silent as he walks away for good. She looks down, heart heavy and saddened. As the sun sets and evening takes over, the protagonist arrives back at his apartment. He keys in his code, his eyes falling on the wristband. He remembers her frantic warning, "Do not remove until midnight." He scoffs, wondering what kind of game she is playing. Ignoring the warning, he rips the cloth off and tosses it aside. He steps inside and flips the switch. The lights flicker on, revealing his dog sitting on the bed. It startles him, but the protagonist quickly shrugs it off. He asks the dog if it has been there the whole time. The animal just sits, staring with an unnatural intensity. Young-jin assumes it must be hungry. He dumps sausages onto a plate, but the dog doesn't move. It just stares at the food, completely motionless. The protagonist lies on his bed, scrolling on his phone, until a deep voice fills the room complaining that it is the same food again. Startled, Young-jin spins around. The dog slowly turns its head to face him, and the nightmare begins. The creature scoffs, demanding a royal feast even though the boy is starving. These scraps will have to do for now. Next time, he better show some respect and set the table properly. Young-jin rises, freezing when the animal asks what he is hunting for. His mind races. Where on earth is that voice coming from? The canine grins, a disturbing, human-like smile spreading across its muzzle. It says he can finally hear the truth standing right in front of him. Silence stretches between them. Young-jin hoists the animal up to eye level, but the beast snaps, barking in rage and demanding to know what he thinks he is doing. Terrified, Young-jin drops the creature. His mind fractures. A talking dog? Is he losing his grip on reality? Is this the onset of madness? But the dog snaps at him to face reality. It knows how insane it seems to simply appear like this. To prove its point, the beast flings a bundle of blood-soaked clothes directly into the young man's face. Young-jin recoils in shock. He recognizes the torn sleeve instantly. Terror grips him as the creature asks if the nightmare from yesterday still lingers in his memory. The past crashes into him like a tidal wave. Clutching his trembling arm, he demands to know what this monster truly is. The dog scoffs. It is walking and talking, so it should be the one asking questions. It demands to know if this is the first time a miracle has occurred. Young-jin is baffled. How can a stray mutt interrogate him with such arrogance? The beast demands he contact his creator. It needs to speak with the head of the family immediately to understand this lineage. But the boy's eyes go cold. He replies that he has no one. The dog pauses, sensing the weight of his absolute solitude. Young-jin stands, irritated by the family talk. He cracks open a water bottle, trying to convince himself this is just a stray dog and a hallucination. The animal muses aloud. It survived thanks to its own spiritual power. But something feels off about this location. It wonders what transpired during its slumber. Then, it turns to the boy, demanding gratitude for saving his life yesterday. Young-jin calls it a monster. Fury erupts from the dog. How dare he insult his own blood? It claims to be his actual ancestor. Young-jin stares blankly, his brain short-circuiting. His great ancestor is a canine? That would imply he is also a dog. The entity calls him an imbecile. It is not a mere animal. Young-jin tells it to check a mirror. The entity clarifies it is not the dog speaking, but the spirit projecting its voice through the beast. The protagonist points out the moving snout. The ancestor sighs. It is simply trapped in this vessel for the time being. If it possessed a human form, the possibilities would be endless. It refuses to be classified as a simple dog. Young-jin snaps at the ghost accusation. He has no money for rituals or shrines. If this spirit needs handouts, it better find a richer descendant. The dog ignores him, pacing anxiously back and forth across the bed sheets. Young-jin points to the bathroom, but the beast stops cold. It questions if the family has abandoned their duties of service entirely. Young-jin asks what family, since he is the last one left. The dog nods solemnly. It has decided to take the boy under its wing from now on. Panic sets in. Is it moving in? Young-jin points to the door, ordering the squatter to leave immediately. The ancestor is appalled. It saved this ungrateful bastard's life, and this is the thanks it receives. Young-jin pleads poverty. He can barely feed himself. But suddenly, the dog's ears perk up. The air in the room shifts. A shadow flickers past the window. The dog leaps up, barking madly, while Young-jin begs the mutt to stop scaring him. The ancestor hisses a warning. There's something lurking just outside the walls. The dog turns on him, eyes narrowing. It demands to know what exactly he lured back to their sanctuary. Outside, heavy footsteps crunch. The ancestor commands him to check the door. The enemy is waiting, immobile and dangerous. Young-jin grabs the mutt, ready to toss it out, until a crushing spiritual pressure forces him to his knees in terror. The ancestor yanks his hair, screaming at him to move. Guided by the dog, he stumbles out into the night to face the threat. Young-jin freezes. His eyes widen in disbelief. A massive stone statue is walking towards them. Ducking into the shadows, the protagonist trembles. The dog whispers, asking if he recognizes this monstrosity. Young-jin gasps. It is the statue from his school. The ancestor corrects him, not a monster, but a spirit. Spirits are entities born when a soul possesses an inanimate object, giving life to the lifeless. They take many forms, existing in parallel realms. They are as natural as the wind or rain. It sounds like a fairy tale to Young-jin, but the ancestor is puzzled. Spirits are usually peaceful. Why is this one burning with rage? A memory flashes in Young-jin's mind. He remembers disrespecting it, tossing it into the trash like garbage earlier. He stammers a denial, claiming self-defense. Suddenly, the ancestor shouts a warning as a stone fist shatters the glass. Young-jin is blasted backward, the door reduced to splinters. The dog screams at him to move. They have to escape right now. The stone spirit turns, its heavy gaze burning with irritation. The hunt is on. The protagonist freezes, staring down the specter. But the dog barks frantically for him to move while Young-jin stands there in confusion. "Run, you fool," his ancestor commands. Terror grips Young-jin's heart, and he finally bolts into a desperate sprint. He glances back over his shoulder, the dog's claim echoing in his mind, that this mutt is actually his ancient ancestor. The dog turns to the spirit, aura flaring. "You bastard. Do you know who you're messing with?" It unleashes a wave of spiritual pressure. Then the dog opens its mouth and lets out a pathetic, cute bark. The unamused spirit backhands the animal, sending it flying into the distance. The dog rolls down the asphalt like a bowling ball before scrambling back to its feet to chase the protagonist. Young-jin spins around, bewildered. "Why are you still here?" the dog pants. Young-jin snaps back. "I've been running for less than 10 seconds. Are you really the savior who rescued me yesterday?" The dog stops, visibly offended by the doubt. "Are you mocking me right now?" it snarls. But suddenly, the monster lunges, grabbing Young-jin with terrifying speed. Caught again, Young-jin thinks, panic rising. The monster rips the jacket off the young man, slamming him into the concrete while obsessively staring at the clothes. "Get up, move," the ancestor screams. But the spirit puts on the stolen jacket, adjusting it with eerie precision. Then, Young-jin notices something chilling. The statue-like creature drops into a perfect professional runner's stance, ready to hunt. Young-jin and the dog watch in horror as the monster explodes forward, until golden inscriptions flood the air. The beast is blasted backward by a wave of energy from Hisu's music box. The protagonist's eyes go wide. "Hisu." She cranks the device, playing an ancient Buddhist sutra that sets the spirit ablaze. "What the hell?" Young-jin yells, watching his jacket burn. "That was brand new." The girl stares warily at the threat. "Did you do this?" the ancestor asks, impressed. But the nightmare isn't over. The spirit rises, walking through the flames. Its face melts like wax, a grotesque sight that sends shivers down Hisu's spine. She stumbles backward, but the entity vanishes, reappearing instantly in front of her with a fist cocked back. Young-jin throws himself forward. He tackles the girl with his shoulder, sending them both crashing to the ground just as the spirit's blow shatters the music box. The ghost takes a deep breath, fingers digging into the road. It rips a massive chunk of asphalt from the ground, crushing it into a dense projectile. Fear paralyzes them both. The raw power is overwhelming. "Incoming!" Young-jin screams. The debris rains down like shrapnel. slicing Hisoo's skin and tearing into Young-jin with jagged rocks. Dust swallows the street, but as the cloud settles, the protagonist's eyes widen in shock. He crawls from the rubble, clutching his injured arm, calling out to Hisoo. But the spirit is relentless, closing the distance with heavy steps. Asterisk click, asterisk the sound of a lighter catches his attention. He turns to see Hisoo standing there. What are you doing? Run. He screams for her to move, but it's too late. The spirit materializes behind her, effortlessly lifting an entire car over its head. Young-jin moves on instinct, his ancestor's warning screaming in his brain. Asterisk get out of there. Asterisk, ancestor, help me. He begs, facing the bald monstrosity. As the car comes crashing down, Young-jin closes his eyes, accepting his death. But the impact never comes. He opens his eyes to find himself in a void. He stares at the floor, disoriented. Am I dead? Where is everyone? He shouts desperately for Lee Hisoo and his ancestor. You sound pathetic, a voice says from the shadows. A figure appears behind him. The protagonist spins around, expecting the dog, but freezes. Standing there is a man, his ancestor in human form. Who are you? What's with the robes? Young-jin asks. The man sighs, frustrated. Don't you recognize my voice, you foolish descendant? The pieces click into place, the tone, the attitude. It was the dog all along. Ancestor, Young-jin whispers. The man steps forward, his presence commanding and absolute. He places a hand on the boy's shoulder. In the beginning, there were 12 gods. I am the dragon god, ruler of them all. My name is Jin. Light gathers in his hand, forging a magnificent sword. I will lend you my strength. Take it. Back in reality, Hisoo gasps as Young-jin moves with unnatural speed. He draws the spectral blade and slashes, cutting through reality itself. The car splits into mid-air. Before gravity can take hold, Young-jin swings again, bisecting the monster with a clean, devastating strike. Young-jin. Hisoo cries as he lands. He stares at the ruined car, stunned. Did I do that? But Jin's voice cuts in. Focus, it's not over. Young-jin tries to lift the sword again, but his arms tremble. It's too heavy. The spirit twitches. It wasn't dead. Suddenly, it rushes him with a brutal shoulder tackle. Young-jin flies backward, crashing into a trash can. Terror grips him again. Jin, back in dog form, sprints toward the monster's head. Hurry up, the dog barks, latching onto the spirit. Why are you running? Coward, turn and fight. The spirit rips the dog off and hurls him aside, leaping for the kill. Use the sword, the dog screams. Young-jin grits his teeth and spins around to face his destiny. He swings the blade horizontally. The spirit weaves past the steel, dodging the attack. It locks eyes with the terrified protagonist, a chilling glare piercing straight through him. Hisoo screams for him to hold his ground. Young-jin flails the sword blindly from side to side, panic taking over, but his grip slips. The weapon flies from his trembling hands. The blade becomes a deadly pinwheel. It shears through the air, slicing blossoms from the trees in a shower of severed petals. As the monster charges, the falling petals trigger a memory. It looks up, eyes widening. It begins to run, not to attack, but as if competing in a marathon. In the golden days of its past, fire and hammer shaped its form. A blacksmith forged it with honor, a tribute to a legendary athlete. They sculpted the face with precision. The bronze features were cast to perfectly mirror the hero being honored. The crowd marveled at the likeness. It's the greatest athlete in Korea. They cheered. But whispers floated through the air. Why is the statue bald? Every falling petal brought back a memory of joy. Fans snapped photos, laughing and cheering. Then came the day the real legend arrived. Pose with your metal twin, they urged. The athlete smiled, striking his iconic running stance beside the monument. A mother spoke up. My eldest son is an athlete too. He adores you. Witnessing this love, the spirit within the bronze began to weep silent tears. But glory fades. A crane eventually tore it from the square. Relocated to a lonely schoolyard, it stood forgotten, weeping whenever the rain fell. The spirit sprints, chasing those memories alongside the boy it pushes toward a distant goal. Suddenly, it halts. Young-jin collapses, bracing for impact. The young man cowers, shielding his head in terror. But the blow never comes. The living statue thunders right past him. Young-jin scrambles up, bewildered. The spirit isn't attacking. It's rushing toward the parking lot, treating the gate like a finish line. The spirit looks to the sky, lost in a beautiful delusion. In its mind, the roar of the crowd returns. It is crossing the finish line once more. It remembers the weight of the Olympic gold medal, the endless autograph sessions, the peaceful retirement, posing for photos with adoring fans. Goal achieved, the spirit begins to glow. A brilliant, purifying light erupts from its bronze shell. Young-jin, Ji-Hwan, and Wi-Soo watch in utter confusion. What just happened? Ji-Hwan sighs. It fulfilled its dream. The spirit can finally rest. Like I told you, Ji-Hwan continues, spirits aren't dangerous if you respect their rules. Young-jin frowns. And what rules are those? Ji-Hwan explains, it depends on why they were created. That's why I asked you why it was so angry earlier. The protagonist glares. Is this flea bag messing with me on the walk home? He winces. I think my rib is broken. Ji-Hwan scoffs. Don't be a baby. He turns his attention to Wi-Soo. Are you hurt? The girl crosses her fingers nervously and bows deep. Thank you for saving me. Young-jin is lost. Wi-Soo slowly lifts her head, her eyes wide. Excuse me, is that dog your ancestor? Meanwhile, as the sun set elsewhere, invisible hands were at work. Tiny spirits swarmed the damaged statue, beginning repairs. They mended the cracked pavement, the cars, the shattered windows, and even the torn plants. Back at the house, the dog narrows his eyes. She can see me. She must be a shaman. No, Wi-Soo corrects him. My mother is the shaman. I just have the sight. Ji-Hwan nods. Wi-Soo continues, you saved me from Sun-Ok last time, but I fainted before I could thank you. Young-jin blinks. Wait, you can actually understand this mutt? The girl nods earnestly. Yes, clearly. The protagonist exhales, relieved. Thank God. I'm not crazy. Ji-Hwan tilts his furry head. How did you know I was his ancestor? Wi-Soo points. Because you'd look exactly alike. The protagonist recoils. What? Wi-Soo looks puzzled. Can't you see the resemblance? Ji-Hwan puffs out his chest. It's because my beauty is unparalleled. Women always get shy around a face this handsome. Young-jin holds a mirror to the dog's face. Yeah, real beautiful. Wi-Soo pulls out her phone. Here, let me show you. She waves the protagonist over. The screen shows a face filter. But after a few seconds, the filter snaps onto Ji-Hwan's dog face instead. Young-jin jumps back, startled. The ancestor barks. What? What happened? It must be a glitch, the young man mutters. But every filter locks onto the dog. Wi-Soo urges him. Get closer to him. Let's see. The protagonist growls in annoyance, swinging his arm at the ancestor. Get lost. As evening settles in, Young-jin checks the clock. It's already 9 o'clock. He says, aren't you going home? The girl turns away, her voice trembling. I can't. Young-jin rubs his tired eyes. Why not? Wi-Soo drops the bombshell. My mother is possessed by a demon powerful enough to summon Saki. If I go home now, she whispers, it will force itself into me. It will use me to come after you, just like Sun-Ok did. Young-jin is baffled. Why me? Ji-Hwan answers grimly. Because of your body. Wi-Soo nods. You are a valuable vessel. She stands up and grabs a bowl. Ji-Hwan watches curiously as she fills it to the brim with water. This water represents a normal person, Wi-Soo explains. She dumps the water out, leaving the bowl dry. And this is you. In the future, countless monsters will fight to fill this empty space. She looks at him with pity. I don't know how else to explain it. There is no other way. What the demons crave is you. Young-jin stands there, stunned into silence. Ji-Hwan looks at him. Didn't you already suspect that? All this chaos is happening because of you. Young-jin recalls blaming the girl earlier. Ji-Hwan corrects him. Nothing like this happened before your birthday. Wi-Soo thinks for a moment, then steps toward the dog. Wi-Soo drops to her knees before the ancestor spirit, bowing her head in desperation as she begs for his aid. Ji-Hwan stares down at her. He knows her mother is a shaman, but he demands the truth. Did she willingly serve and worship demons as gods? Ji-Soo shakes her head violently. Her mother never knew. She explains that her mother wasn't originally a famous fortune teller. She was just a simple, devout woman who prayed earnestly every single day. Until that cursed day, she returned claiming she had received a sacred spirit. Overnight, her empty shrine became a sensation, booked solid for an entire year in advance. But Ji-Soo saw through the illusion. In her eyes, that thing possessing her mother was no god. When she dared to confront her mother about it, the response was a brutal slap across the face. Her mother screamed, demanding how she dared to doubt the divine. Ji-Soo confesses that she has been trying to exorcise the demon clinging to her mother ever since, but she failed every time. In the end, the entity summoned the malicious spirit, Song-ai. Ji-Hwan explains the gravity of the situation. Song-ai is the twisted spirit of a shaman, which is why ordinary exorcism methods are completely useless against it. However, the ancestor decides to intervene. He acknowledges her bravery in trying to protect Young-jin, even at the cost of her own life. He turns to the protagonist. They are going to save her, much to Young-jin's surprise. Overwhelmed, Ji-Soo bows repeatedly, tears of gratitude flowing as she thanks them over and over. With the alliance formed and the night deep, they decide it is time to rest. Ji-Soo prepares to sleep by curling up on a roll of toilet paper. Young-jin immediately interrupts, staring at her in total disbelief. The protagonist asks if she is serious. Does she really plan to sleep there? Does she have nowhere else to go or any friends to stay with? Ji-Soo simply shakes her head. No. Young-jin is confused. He asks about the girl with the strange object on her head who was with her earlier. Ji-Soo explains that was Seoki's friend, not hers. Being an introverted INFJ, she couldn't bring herself to be friendly. She begs the protagonist to just hear her out. She pleads to stay at his place for the night. Young-jin instinctively refuses, but Ji-Soo promises she will strictly just sleep, catching him off guard with her bluntness. He sighs, giving in. It's no big deal, right? Ji-Hwan stretches out on the bed, teasingly asking if they are all roommates now. The spirit dog offers to leave them alone if they want some privacy. Young-jin shoots the dog a look of pure annoyance. Ji-Soo apologizes for the chaos. She asks to borrow some clothes, insisting any old rags will do, which only serves to irritate Young-jin further. The night deepens. While she sleeps on a futon on the floor, Ji-Soo's mind drifts into a nightmare. She sees her mother. In the dream, she begs for forgiveness, admitting she was wrong. But her mother slams the door shut with a malevolent smile. Ji-Soo bangs on the door, screaming for her mother to let her out with all her might. Terror consumes her, until she notices a presence lurking in the surrounding darkness. The spirit Song-ai materializes from the shadows. She smiles, greeting Ji-Soo, and whispers a chilling question. Can I come in? Ji-Hwan senses the girl's terror and the nightmare gripping her. She is crying in her sleep, but her breathing eventually steadies. The spirit dog has quietly sat beside her, standing guard. Morning comes. Meanwhile, at the shaman's shrine, candles flicker ominously. The possessed mother pounds rice, staring at the grain with a cold, grim expression. Suddenly, she slams her hand on the table. She hisses that Ji-Soo has no idea what is coming. She demands to know where the girl is hiding. When she returns, she will be locked away forever. Back at the apartment, the protagonist begins to stir. Young-jin checks the time on his phone and groggily heads to the bathroom. He throws the door open while yawning only to come face to face with Ji-Soo. He slams the door shut instantly. Ji-Soo awkwardly wishes him a good morning. Ji-Hwan chuckles, remarking that the day is off to a great start. Later, they try to normalize the situation. Young-jin ties up the trash bags to take them out. Ji-Soo asks where he is going. He explains the fridge is empty. They need to restock food. The dog is already complaining about breakfast. Since they have a guest, Ji-Hwan demands Young-jin serve a feast with at least 7 different meat dishes. Ji-Soo offers to accompany him to the shopping trip. He accepts, and they drop the trash off outside together. She comments that he lives like a real, responsible adult. Young-jin starts to retort, but falls silent, looking at the girl walking beside him. Flashbacks hit him. He remembers telling her that everything was her fault. Guilt and shame wash over him like a cold wave. Young-jin stops walking. He stands behind her for a moment before calling out her name. Words get stuck in his throat. Overcome with embarrassment, he crouches down, hiding his face, and mutters that he is truly sorry. Ji-Soo asks why. Young-jin admits it was wrong to say those harsh things. This situation is because of him, not her. She helped him when it wasn't even her business, and he is grateful. Ji-Soo smiles, noting that apologizing like that proves he really is an adult. The protagonist looks up, startled. She asks if his conscience was bothering him. It's okay. Even if she didn't mean to, she knows she made things complicated. Yet, he is still helping her. Young-jin promises to do his best, secretly thanking his ancestor for the push. They arrive at the market. Ji-Soo starts eyeing a bag of lemon candy. He asks why she wants them. She explains they help when her blood sugar drops. Then, she turns and asks if he needs anything else. Young-jin hesitates. He confesses he can't afford all this. He's broke. Ji-Soo waves it off. She'll pay. She tells him to grab whatever he wants. The protagonist stares, baffled. Ji-Soo reveals she is actually wealthy, flashing a premium black card. Young-jin is floored. That's way too much power. Walking out of the market, bags in hand, Young-jin looks at the haul in disbelief. It is the first time in his life he has ever bought this much food at once. Ji-Soo playfully asked if he knew his way around a kitchen, but Young-jin shot the idea down immediately. He warned her that his cooking was a disaster waiting to happen. She laughed, insisting that with ingredients this fresh, even he couldn't mess it up. Suddenly, Young-jin spotted a familiar face strolling nearby. It was his friend, Chul. Chul muttered that she probably wouldn't show up, until he looked up and froze, spotting the couple together. He realized instantly that this was Young-jin's girlfriend. Chul grinned, stepping up to chat with them. Meanwhile, Young-jin screamed internally, wondering why Chul had to be here of all places. He had left Ji-Soo alone for just a second, assuming she would follow. Fingers flying across his phone screen, Chul blasted a message to their group chat. He bragged to the boys that he had not only seen Young-jin's girlfriend, but had actually spoken to the elusive beauty. Young-jin tried to keep walking, desperate to escape the awkwardness, but he failed to notice a dark shadow trailing him. Just as the darkness was about to make contact, a soccer ball slammed violently into the back of Young-jin's head. He spun around, rage flaring in his eyes, ready to curse out the piece of trash who threw it. But his anger stalled when he saw a short boy with deep, haunting dark circles under his eyes. Young-jin demanded to know if he threw the ball, but the kid simply stared and whispered a warning to be careful. Young-jin scoffed, snapping back that he wasn't the one who needed to watch his step. A group of younger kids chimed in, murmuring that it was dangerous and their big brother shouldn't get mad. They turned to leave, waving goodbye and telling their young to stay safe. Young-jin watched them go, thinking they were just annoying brats. But the boy with the dark circles didn't move. He just stood there, piercing Young-jin with an unnerving stare. Young-jin rubbed his head, wondering what the hell just happened. Back at the market, Ji-Soo looked around, realizing her boyfriend had disappeared into the crowd. She checked her phone, unaware that a menacing shadow was lurking just inches away. Meanwhile, back at the apartment, Lord Jin was sound asleep on the protagonist's bed. The sound of the doorbell roused the dog deity. Jin noted that the boy was back, but his senses told him Young-jin was alone. He immediately asked where Ji-Soo was. Young-jin casually replied that she would be there any second. But 15 minutes ticked by with silence. He tried calling her, but Ji-Soo's phone rang unanswered. Panic began to set in. Young-jin wondered what could have happened and threw the door open. Rushing out into the night, he sprinted down the street, turning a corner only to come face to face with a figure standing. Still in the darkness, it was her. Young-jin ran toward her in relief, and she simply called his name. She asked where he had been. Young-jin apologized breathlessly, explaining he had run into Chul and thought it would be awkward. Ji-Soo tilted her head, asking who that was. Young-jin explained it was his friend with the glasses. She asked if he was the mean boy, but Young-jin defended him, saying Chul wasn't like that. But then, a chill ran down his spine. Something was wrong. The girl standing before him was smiling, but her eyes were completely dead. He noticed strange, arcane writing scrawled across her shirt. Realization hit him like a truck. He stepped forward, demanding to know who she really was. Suddenly, the girl's face began to crack and fragment, revealing a withered old man hiding underneath. The entity introduced himself as Grandfather Mangtai, the legendary boogeyman. Young-jin froze in sheer terror. Meanwhile, Lord Jin was sprinting through the streets, barking for his descendant. But Young-jin was already gone. The dog cursed, wondering how he could have lost his trace. As he searched frantically, a cold voice echoed from the shadows, mocking him and saying that the canine body suited him well. Jin snapped his head up, turning to face a mysterious young man who asked what it was like to live as a dog. Despite the insult, Jin addressed the boy as Your Excellency. The boy noted that it had been a long time since they last met. His eyes scanned Jin's canine form, asking what exactly had happened to reduce a dragon to this state. The boy flashed an arrogant, annoyed smile. He asked if Jin genuinely didn't know the answer or if he was just playing dumb to test him. Jin looked confused. The boy asked how the seal had been broken. The dog admitted he didn't know, speculating that perhaps a rebel from his kind or the celestial god himself had intervened. The conversation ended abruptly. The boy produced a folding fan and swiped it through the air, launching a lethal attack at the dog. Piercing gusts of wind slashed toward Jin, instantly freezing the air into razor-sharp ice. With no choice, Jin unleashed his true power, transforming into his majestic dragon god form to evade the strike. The attack grazed his shoulder, drawing blood. The boy scoffed, declaring he could break Jin and seal him away for eternity, especially now that his own power was enough to crush a dragon. Jin asked for one final answer. He shifted back into his small dog form, looking up with intensity. He needed to know if this boy was the one who had tampered with his body. The boy remained silent for a heartbeat, then a cruel smile spread across his face. He tapped the fan against his palm, and the surrounding ice shattered into dust. Putting the weapon away, the boy deflected, asking why Jin didn't go ask the celestial god instead. He mocked Jin, saying that critical thinking was apparently a new skill for him. Jin demanded to know why he had been sealed. Was the boy afraid of his power? The boy simply called him an idiot. The entity declared he was leaving now that he had said his piece, deciding to let the dragon live for today. But Jin had no time to dwell on the encounter. He remembered his mission. Suddenly, the strange children from earlier appeared, calling out to the little dog. They approached quickly, asking if he was looking for the brother in black clothes with the messy hair. They grinned, promising they could find him. The scene shifted to a room covered in paper seals. Someone was sharpening a knife, humming a disturbing tune about a good child, causing Young-jin to wake up in a panic. Old man Mangtai added a creepy verse about eating rice cakes. Young-jin looked around wildly, his mind racing as he tried to figure out where he was. Mangtai continued his song, chanting that the tiger would come for the naughty child and take her. Far, far away. Terror seized the protagonist. He scrambled, trying to find an escape route, until a familiar voice sobbed his name. Young-jin turned to see Ji-Soo, crying her eyes out in the corner. Young-jin realized she had been captured too. Before they could move, Grandfather Mangtai threw a handful of salt over both of them, singing about how he would season and prepare them. Ji-Soo trembled, whispering that he was going to punish them and that she had been forced to listen to the psychotic song for times already. Young-jin looked down and realized the horror of their situation. There was salt lining the bottom of the wooden box they were trapped in. He collapsed in despair, muttering about his ruined clothes. While the nightmare closed in around them, Young-jin whispers, asking if she can see the entity, but Ji-Soo squeezes her eyes shut, refusing to witness the horror. Suddenly, the rhythmic grinding of the blade ceases. The old man rises, his shadow looming over the children, and a suffocating silence swallows the room. Young-jin prays the monster has left and peeks to the side, but Grandpa Mangtai is already there, staring down with a twisted grin, declaring him a wicked child who refuses to sleep. Confused, Young-jin demands to know why they are labeled as naughty. Ji-Soo trembles beside him, insisting that they have been nothing but obedient. She stammers that he promised rice cakes to good children, so he should hand them over immediately. But the old creature leans in, his voice raspy, asking for proof of their virtue. Young-jin counters with a glare, asking the monster how he plans to prove they are rotten to begin with. Mangtai ignores the logic, demanding they prove their obedience right now. The boy steels himself and reveals the cold truth: he has no parents to disobey. A statement that stuns the old man into silence. The entity's aura flares with anger. He roars that it is an outrage to dare deny one's own flesh and blood. For such a sin, they will face a punishment worse than death. Ji-Soo steps in, her voice shaking, confirming that the boy is truly an orphan. Mangtai sneers, declaring she will share his fate. Young-jin clenches his fists, realizing that fighting their way out is the only option left. The old man preaches that denying one's lineage is the ultimate evil, but Young-jin cuts him off, shouting that his parents have already crossed into the afterlife. The creature freezes, his gaze shifting slowly to Ji-Soo. He points a gnarled finger, accusing her of being the true sinner. He reveals a heartbreaking truth: her mother prays to him every single night, begging him to take her daughter away because she is a cursed child. The realization shatters Ji-Soo's heart. Suddenly, a strange noise distracts Mangtai. He orders them to remain frozen in place and vanishes into the shadows to investigate. Seizing the chance, the two scramble to their feet. Ji-Soo looks around the eerie room, realizing this is the monster's personal sanctuary. Young-jin mutters that they are in deep trouble, but Ji-Soo questions his fear, reminding him that they plan to infiltrate this place anyway. The boy asks how they can possibly survive alone. Ji-Soo's eyes lock onto him. She tells him to summon the spiritual sword. She asks why the blade doesn't materialize when he moves his hand like before. Realizing the power is dormant, they decide to flee while they still can. Young-jin warns that the front entrance is a death trap, but Ji-Soo spots a rear exit. They slip away, and the boy finds himself stumbling into a sacred Buddhist temple. He marvels at the strange artifacts surrounding them. Ji-Soo calls out, tossing him a set of ceremonial robes. Noting that escape will be impossible in their current attire, they quickly change into the disguise, turning their backs to one another to offer a moment of privacy amidst the chaos. Young-jin finishes dressing and frantically searches for his original clothes, unwilling to leave his belongings behind. Ji-Soo dismisses it, promising to pay for a taxi once they escape. She points toward the backyard, their only path to freedom. Suddenly, Young-jin freezes. He spots a silhouette in the window. Someone is watching them. Ji-Soo follows his gaze, terror gripping her. The door flies open. In a panic, the two dive into a large wooden crate, holding their breath as the sanctuary falls deathly silent. Young-jin wonders why the noise stopped. He cracks the lid open just an inch, only to find himself face to face with Ji-Soo's mother. Her eyes wide and manic. He slams the lid shut, heart pounding in his chest. But it is too late. The mother flings the box open, exposing their hiding spot to the light. Ji-Soo cries out for her mom, but the woman snaps. She grabs her daughter by the hair, drags her outside, and throws her violently onto the dirt, screaming that she should have announced her arrival. Her voice drips with false sweetness as she claims she was worried sick about her beloved daughter. The woman's gaze turns ice cold as she stares at the box. Young-jin climbs out, stammering that he has urgent business at home and must leave immediately. He promises to visit another time, but since he is lost, he asks if Ji-Soo can guide him to the exit. The mother offers a chilling smile as Young-jin begins to walk away. Suddenly, she lets out a sharp whistle that freezes the boy's blood. She chides him, saying it is respectful to greet the parents of a friend. Young-jin looks down in horror. A pale, ghostly hand has erupted from the earth and gripped his ankle. The mother tuts, calling him rude and asking if he lacks manners. More spectral hands claw their way out of the ground, groping at Young-jin's legs. Her smile vanishes. She declares that he never needs to visit again, because neither of them is ever leaving this hell. The ghostly hands immobilize the children. Suddenly, Mangtai reappears, demanding to know who this woman is. The shaman sneers, telling the old relic his time is up. Mangtai looks at the trapped children and closes his eyes, accepting the grim reality of the situation. Young-jin wonders if the monsters will fight each other. The old man defends the children, declaring them innocent, while branding the woman a mother unworthy of the title. He warns that wicked parents face the harshest divine punishment. The mother mocks the old spirit, asking if he has gone senile. She reminds him of why he is trapped here. Raising a single finger, she summons a mystical flask that begins to generate a vacuum around old Mangtai. He tries to raise his blade, but an invisible force paralyzes him. He roars in defiance, asking how she dares to challenge a deity. But the shaman's spell is too strong. She flicks her finger downward, and the old man is sucked into the jar with a final scream. She snaps her fingers, sealing the vessel instantly. She scoffs at the jar, remarking that an old spirit who cannot even recognize his own master is useless trash. The shaman turns her predatory gaze back to the children, asking if they have had their fill of hope. The spirits release their grip, and Young-jin collapses, his energy completely drained. He hits the ground, gasping, confused by the sudden weakness. The mother looms over them, whispering a terrifying question. Did they really think they could escape? The paralysis was absolute. Young-jin couldn't twitch a single muscle. Desperation filled Hisoo's voice as she screamed at the entities surrounding them. But the shaman silenced her instantly, shoving her foot into Young-jin's shoulder with brutal force. "Time to see what you're really made of," the witch sneered. Hisoo begged for mercy, crying out to the woman who wore her mother's face. "Stop your whining," the spirit hissed, eyes cold as ice. "Unless you want to end up in a sealing jar like the rest." The command was absolute. Shut up and stay put. The entity stalked toward Young-jin, mocking his helplessness. But suddenly, a haunting melody cut through the air, interrupting her triumph. The false mother froze, casting a sharp glance sideways. They were trapped in a sealed room, yet the atmosphere had shifted. "We're back in this nightmare," Young-jin muttered. He whispered that her mother was terrifying, but Hisoo shook her head violently. "That thing isn't my mother. My real mom is the kindest person in the world." Tears welled in her eyes as the horrific realization set in. The monster wearing her mother's skin would never say such cruel things. "Young-jin," she sobbed, guilt crashing over her. "I'm so sorry I dragged you into this hell." Young-jin frowned. It sounded too much like a farewell speech. She continued, voice trembling, convinced she was nothing but a selfish burden. "Don't be stupid," Young-jin snapped, though his voice was strained. "Things are messy, but we aren't done yet." Hisoo couldn't stop the flow of apologies, her spirit breaking. Young-jin grit his teeth, ordering her to stop crying. "You're talking like we're already dead," he scolded. She felt useless, paralyzed by fear while he fought for his life. She never imagined the evil spirit would go this far, destroying her family from the inside. She had seen her mother's body withering away day by day. The Sungak sea spirit had warned that time was running out. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" Young-jin demanded. "I didn't want to be a burden," she whispered, broken. "Well, you already are, so let's fix it," Young-jin replied with tough love. Hisoo explained the dire reality. This started before the full possession. If they waited any longer, her mother's soul would be lost forever. Young-jin cut her off, refusing to accept her defeatism. He needed intel, not apologies. "How does the body swap work? What's the trigger?" "Usually, if a host body becomes too weak, the spirit jumps to a new one. But this demon was different. It refused to leave, merely projecting that cursed song. A normal human body can't contain it," she revealed, the horror dawning on her. "They need a vessel strong enough to hold a god." Hisoo's eyes went wide as she looked at him. "It wants ***, Young-jin. Your shaman bloodline makes you the perfect vessel for a deity." The protagonist struggled, his mind racing. Even moving a finger felt like lifting a mountain. But then, a spark of sensation returned. His fist clenched. The paralysis was breaking. "My strength is returning," he declared, eyes burning with determination. "Hisoo, you need to move. Now." I can't," she cried, still bound by the spiritual pressure. Ignoring the pain, Young-jin forced his body upright. "Grab my shoulder," he commanded. She obeyed, and he tried to heave them both up, rocking back and forth. But his limbs were still heavy as lead. He barely budged. "Damn it, you're heavy," he grumbled, trying to lighten the mood. "I know you have your strength back," he teased through gritted teeth. "Stop being lazy and get up." Suddenly, a familiar voice drifted from behind them, Is this some sort of romantic nap time? Ancestor Jin had arrived. Hi-Soo gasped, looking past him as strange children emerged from the shadows. They were carrying Young-jin's massive sword, waving cheerfully at the big brother. One of the spirit children hefted the heavy blade as if it were a twig. Time to go. The child chirped, hurling the weapon straight at Young-jin. Young-jin scrambled to catch it, but the weight slammed him into the floor. Erg. He groaned, crushed under the steel. What the hell is wrong with you kids? He lay there, exhausted and confused. How could a tiny child throw a sword that weighed a ton? A spirit floated toward Hi-Soo, tilting its head. Is this the shaman's work? Do you need a lift, big sister? Before she could answer, Hi-Soo's body jerked upright, mimicking the child's movements. This place, the spirits whispered in unison, is a sanctuary. Don't go that way, Young-jin warned, struggling to rise. But Hi-Soo walked alongside the ghosts, her movements unnatural. Bakyuni has taken the lead, one spirit announced. What is happening to her? Young-jin panicked. Relax, Ancestor Jin replied calmly. They are just child spirits playing with a doll. Since she couldn't control her own limbs, the spirits were moving her body for her. A ghostly puppetry to save her life. Young-jin didn't fully understand, but he had to trust them. Ancestor, do you know these kids? They are spirits from the sky, Jin explained, his tone respectful. No need for guards here. Young-jin sighed, rubbing his temples. Asterisk not human, of course. Could they at least be quieter? Asterisk. Meanwhile, in another room, the shaman handed a sealed jar to a trembling client. Place this by your bed tonight, she instructed smoothly. And whatever you do, never look inside. The woman thanked her profusely, unaware of the dark spirits clinging to her own shoulders. The shaman snapped her fan open, blowing a sharp gust of spiritual energy. Asterisk poof. Asterisk. The parasite on the woman's shoulder vanished instantly. I feel so much lighter, the client gasped, amazed. Don't get used to it, the shaman warned, eyes narrowing. I merely unblocked your energy flow. If this talisman fails, she added ominously, we will move to the grand ritual. How much do I owe you? The woman asked nervously. The shaman waved her hand with a benevolent smile. Take it. I help people, I don't sell salvation. The client was ecstatic. Just leave a 10,000 won offering on your way out, the shaman added. The follower bowed, full of gratitude. But as the door closed, the shaman's smile twisted. Asterisk she'll be back for the full ritual soon enough. Asterisk. Asterisk and next time, the price will be her soul. Asterisk. You will find a young man waiting for you inside, the shaman explains with a sly smile. From this moment on, speak to him directly. He acts as my vessel. The woman hesitates, asking about the shaman's own whereabouts. I must wander the mountains to offer prayers. The shaman lies smoothly, masking her true intent. Though he is young, his spiritual energy is immense, she assures the client. The woman nods, convinced that no one could possibly rival the shaman's power. Simply imagine he is me, the shaman commands. We serve the same deity, after all. Suddenly, a rhythmic knocking echoes from the adjacent room. Is someone else here? The woman asks, startled. The shaman quickly moves her coffee, dismissing the noise. Just a stray cat causing trouble. Perhaps a rat scuttled in. Inside the sanctuary, the spirits are restless. One knocks an object over, while another scolds it. Why are you making a mess? Put that back before we get caught. Little Bok soon approaches a forbidden vase, curiosity gleaming in her eyes. What's this jar doing here? But Jin spins around, panic in his voice. Don't touch that. Another spirit screams for Bok Soon to retreat, but it is too late. The vase slips from her spectral fingers. The ceramic shatters against the floor, triggering a violent explosion of spiritual energy. The possessing spirit is forced out of Hi-Soo's body, and she collapses, crying out for her sister. What is happening? Hi-Soo gasps. Suddenly, Young-jin charges forward, a blade in his hand and fury in his eyes. Get out of my way. Hi-Soo glances back and freezes in terror. A grotesque creature looms behind her. But Young-jin does not hesitate. He hurls his sword with lethal precision. The blade flies true, pinning the evil spirit against the wall. The room erupts in cheers as the child spirits celebrate the instant victory. Young-jin pants heavily, exhausted from the spiritual burden. Suddenly, the shaman enters the room, her eyes cold. It seems I have an infestation of rats. She ignores the chaos, asking only if Young-jin has recovered. A twisted laugh escapes her lips. A body capable of housing a god. It is practically perfect. He should be honored, she sneers, looking down at him. Even if he is a fool, his vessel is magnificent. Young-jin looks up in shock as the shaman whistles, commanding her enslaved spirits to advance. But one spirit steps forward, defiant. You won't touch the children again. The spirit blocks her command, standing firm. The shaman laughs, a chilling sound. You dare disobey me? You've done something very foolish. It is always the weak shamans who resort to these dark arts, the spirit accuses, demanding to know the fate of the other lost children. The shaman's face twists in disdain. The client woman calls out from the doorway, trembling. What is that thing? She turns to flee in pure terror. The shaman ignores her, locking eyes with Young-jin. The pot in her hands begins to fracture. A dark spirit lunges at him, screaming, "That body is mine." But it is instantly neutralized. The shaman's eyes widen in disbelief. How dare you interfere? She hisses. Why fight for him? That body is my property. The dark energy begins to fade into nothingness. The shaman observes the dissipating spirit. That one was useless anyway. Suddenly, the united children begin to recite a protective incantation. You little brats are up to all sorts of tricks, the woman sneers. Do you really think a nursery rhyme can stop me? She pulls a hairpin from her bun, dark energy swirling around her fingers. My very being is forged from resentment. Manifested from the void of oblivion, icy script begins to etch itself onto the floor. You were born in a field of flowers, the creature mocks the children. But I am not a being you can contain so easily. I am the vengeance that curses this world. The pressure in the room skyrockets, forcing everyone to their knees under the weight of her spell. The shaman steps forward, her voice dripping with malice. Believing in gods was useless from the start. She addresses the child who asked about the others. A sinister laugh rumbles from her throat as she reveals the horrific truth. Her spell expands, striking the defenseless children with brutal force. The child's spirit screams, pointing in horror. Look, the spirits she enslaved are merging, twisting into a singular, terrifying abomination. The shaman continues to whistle, guiding the monster like a pet. It turns its soulless gaze toward little Bok-soon. They are the spirits of the unborn, another child whispers, trembling. Doomed to become evil spirits, never to bloom as flowers, never to see their parents. Bok-soon weeps, clutching her chest. It breaks my heart. Then, she wipes her tears and yells, "Pull yourselves together. We have to see our mothers." Quite the dramatic show. The shaman mocks, drawing in more ambient energy to fuel her beast. The monster attacks Bok-soon. Her brother steps in, shouting, "You think you'll get away with this? My big brother will destroy you when he gets here." The shaman throws her head back and laughs. "Call him then. Whoever comes, I will crush them just the same." "How dare you?" The spirit gasps, its voice fading as its vision goes dark forever. The shaman steps over the fallen spirit, walking toward Young-jin. Now that the distractions are gone, she purrs, "Shall we continue where we left off?" "With your body," she whispers, reaching for his forehead. "I will become something greater than a god." Wish, a knife cuts through the air, embedding itself in the wall inches from her hand. The shaman recoils in surprise. "You are amusing." Jin's voice echoes through the room. How does a mere shaman dare to speak of the gods with such filth in her mouth? The shaman looks around, confused. "I see," she mutters, realizing he is resisting. "You are no ordinary opponent." Jin scoffs. "You must have lost your divine sight if you cannot even see me standing here." "Who are you?" the shaman demands, fear creeping into her voice. The ancestor concentrates his aura, energy swirling until he materializes in human form. His presence is overwhelming. "I am a true god," Jin declares, leaving the room stunned by his divine power. A blinding surge of energy floods the room, casting stark shadows across the faces of Young-jin and Wi-Soo. The possessed shaman sneers, asking if this entity before her claims to be a god. "Have I finally seen the likes of you?" she hisses. A wicked grin splits her face, escalating into a maniacal cackle that echoes off the walls. She mocks. You're nothing but a cute little thing. Stay out of this unless you want to be crushed. Eyeing his attire, she scoffs. Judging by those rags, you are nothing more than a low-ranking noble lord. Young-jin stands paralyzed, confused by the stalemate. But Jin shifts his gaze, locking eyes with the terrified protagonist in that frozen moment. Where are you looking? The shaman barks. Don't try any tricks. Jin replies with icy calm. I was merely contemplating my options. Given the limitations of this frail human vessel, panic rises in Young-jin's chest. He cannot possibly expect me to do something in a nightmare like this, he thinks, trembling. The shaman pauses, sensing something off about his composure. Strange, she thinks, but I understand the game. If you were truly a god, stopping a simple ritual would be child's play. With a roar, she unleashes a dark spell. Young-jin screams for his ancestor, but the blast sends his companion flying across the room. What was that pathetic display? The shaman taunts. Are you even a god? I thought you were dangerous, but you are nothing but a useless vessel. A true deity would have seized this body and obliterated me in a heartbeat. Her eyes narrow with contempt. A real god would not deign to inhabit a mutt like him. How dare you pretend to be divine? She turns her predatory gaze to Young-jin. Is this trash all you have to protect you? She licks her lips. The time has finally come. That body is mine. Surrender it willingly, she commands, and I might show mercy to your wretched friends. Refuse, and a miserable death is all that awaits them. You think I have no choice, Young-jin counters, his voice shaking. If I bite my tongue right now, I die before you get what you want. The spirit just laughs. Do it then. I will snatch your soul before your heart even stops beating. I will finally become a goddess, and nothing can stop me. Stop, Hi-soo cries out. The spirit glances down, seeing the girl's small hand desperately gripping the hem of her mother's dress. Please, stop. Hi-soo begs, tears streaming down her face. Get out of my mom. Leave her alone. Despite her terror, she holds on with everything she has. The spirit stares at her with eyes devoid of humanity. She clenches her fist and ruthlessly kicks the girl away. Young-jin watches in horror as the possessed woman advances on the fallen Hi-soo. Do you know why I let you live this long? She sneers. Because you were useful. But now, she raises her hand. You are garbage. You should just die. I will be sending your mother to hell soon anyway. Young-jin struggles to move, desperate to save her. Hi-soo, broken and bleeding, whispers a tearful apology to him. Young-jin freezes, helplessness crushing him as the girl closes her eyes. He screams her name, but the spirit's lethal energy gathers in its palm, ready to strike. Memories flood back. A younger Hi-soo runs to her mother, who smiles gently, holding out a bracelet carved from peach seeds. It is the latest fashion. Her mother teases, wear it for me, but young Hi-soo pouts. It is huge and ugly. It is not cute at all. It is weird. It will keep the bad spirits away, her mother insists. Hi-soo stomps her foot. Stop with the ghost talk. I do not want it. The other kids already mock me for being a shaman's daughter, she thinks. If they see me wearing this junk, stop putting weird talismans in my bag, she yells. One fell out in class yesterday. Everyone laughed. I was just worried, her mother says softly. Hi-soo snaps back. What will you do if I get bullied because of you? Other parents do not do this crazy stuff. Their kids are fine. Why do I have to suffer? I hate it. Her mother pauses, then opens her arms wide. Then how about this talisman? Hi-soo blinks, confused. I do not want any. This is the mother talisman. The woman smiles warmly. Wherever you are, whenever you are scared, just call mommy. I will come running to hug you. That is my absolute power. Mommy will protect Hi-soo no matter what. Back in the present, the spell shatters. Tears stream down the possessed shaman's face. Recognition dawns in Hi-soo's eyes. Her mother's voice breaks through the possession. Run, now. Young-jin and Hi-soo gasp. The shaman forces her body upright. Mom, Hi-soo screams. But her mother moves with tragic resolve, snatching a ritual knife from the wall. What are you doing? Hi-soo's mind rejects the horror unfolding before her. The knife point turns inward. Mom, no. Stop, she shrieks. Tears blinding her, the mother looks at her daughter one last time. "I am so sorry for everything, my baby." She plunges the blade deep into her own chest. Young-jin and Jin watch in stunned silence. The girl trembles, her world ending. Crimson blood sprays across the floor, painting a tragic masterpiece. The shockwave breaks the spirit's hold. "Mom." Ji-Soo wails as the woman collapses, her strength fading. Ji-Soo scrambles to her, turning her mother's limp body over. "Why?" she sobs, shaking her. "Mom, please, look at me, open your eyes." The protagonist's heart shatters. He sees the overlay of Ji-Soo begging for help, now sobbing over her mother's body right in front of him. The weight of reality crashes down. This is because of me, Young-jin realizes. All of this horror. It is all because these spirits want me. It is all my fault. I should never have been born. The guilt consumes him. I am the reason I lost my own parents. And now this. I am no different from that evil spirit on the day of the accident. The memory of the shaman's sword piercing the wall overlaps with the image of his dying parents. Suddenly, a dark mist rises from the mother's body. The spirit retreats, hissing in frustration. "That crazy woman, she dared to destroy my vessel." But the girl hears nothing but her own grief. She turns to the fleeing spirit, letting out a scream that tears through the very air. The demon summons a weapon from thin air, sneering that they are all filth. It turns its murderous intent toward the daughter, vowing to take her life too. But before it can strike, its arm is severed in a split second faster than the eye can follow. The materialized blade goes flying, clattering to the cold floor alongside the severed limb. The spirit stares in shock, stammering out a confused, "What? What was that?" Terror grips the entity as it turns toward the protagonist. Young-jin stands there, wielding his shaman's blade now cloaked in swirling draconic energy. But this time, his eyes are burning with a terrifying mix of black and crimson. Young-jin simply shakes his head, testing the surge of power. He calmly wonders if this new strength will be enough to finish the job. The spirit screams, demanding to know what the hell is happening. "Have you all gone insane?" It roars, furious that a mere human would dare challenge it. But the protagonist doesn't answer. He vanishes into the mist. Instantly, he rematerializes behind the beast, blade swinging. The spirit barely manages to dodge the lethal slash. Scrabbling backward in fear, the demon watches its bead necklace shatter into dust. It can't process the reality. How did he move like that? And more importantly, how did he break free from its binding spell? How could a mere mortal possess such overwhelming power? Desperate, the demon inhales deeply, trying to summon its subordinate spirits to turn the tide. The disruption breaks the hold on the children. They scramble up, checking on Bakyuni. She nods, panting, but points frantically. "I'm fine, but more importantly, we have to save Ji-Soo's mother." Dark spirits swarm around the demon, knitting flesh and bone together. Within moments, they reconstruct the severed arm into a grotesque, monstrous limb. Young-jin launches himself forward, sword leading the charge. The demon materializes a heavy staff to intercept him, spitting out, "You arrogant brat." It tries to match Young-jin's strength, blow for blow. But the monster is instantly overwhelmed, forced back by the crushing pressure of the immense draconic aura radiating from the boy. Young-jin is a storm of steel. He strikes again and again, a relentless barrage that gives the beast no time to even breathe. With a flash of precision, he delivers a perfect cut, slicing the demon's weapon clean in two. He doesn't stop, shifting his stance fluidly. Young-jin drives his blade into the earth. The shockwave travels instantly, shattering the monstrous arm the demon had just rebuilt. An agonized scream tears through the air. The demon recoils, trembling in absolute terror before this display of absolute power. Young-jin moves with cold efficiency, swinging his sword once more to sever the limb completely from the body. The demon scrambles back, eyes wide. What are you?" It doesn't make sense. Earlier, a simple, weak spell was enough to make him cough blood. It knew the boy was special, sure, but he was supposed to be nothing more than a fragile mortal. Young-jin just offers a chilling smirk, exposing just how pathetic the demon truly is. Around them, the child's spirits cease their healing ritual on Ji-Soo's mother. Sword ready, Young-jin charges straight for the kill. Panic sets in. The demon frantically scans the room for anything to use against this monster. Its eyes land on a sealed jar containing a trapped spirit. It hurls the vessel at him, but the protagonist doesn't even flinch. He slashes through the air, cutting the jar in half without a second thought. A swarm of vile insects bursts from the broken pottery. "You idiot," the demon mocks. Suddenly, a massive spirit manifests from the swarm, hurling Young-jin backward with tremendous force. The protagonist jams his blade into the floor, carving a groove as he skids to a halt. He stands tall, completely unharmed, now facing down a frightening, insectoid abomination. The demon gloats. That isn't just any spirit. It's an amalgamation of malicious curses. It sneers, doubting the boy can destroy something born of pure hatred so easily. The children scream in horror at the grotesque nightmare looming over them. Who watches, trembling, looking toward the protagonist with eyes full of fear and desperation. Internally, the demon reels. That last attack was stronger than expected. It needs a host to survive. Its gaze locks onto the woman who came to the temple. "I'll take her body." It grins wickedly. Besides, surely this hero wouldn't dare attack a fellow human being without hesitation. The demon begins shifting its consciousness toward the woman, but suddenly a massive crash echoes. The cursed monster is flung violently across the room, smashing against the wall with half its body destroyed. The demon whips its head around, disbelief coloring its face. With just a single move, Young-jin has sliced its ultimate cursed creature in half. The protagonist maintains his icy, predator-like stare, but the demon starts to cackle. "You fool." It laughs, mocking his effort. "Even if you cut off its head, it won't die. Curses are eternal. It will simply regenerate and grow back stronger." It commands the creature, "Just tie the brat up, keep him alive." To ascend and become a god, the demon absolutely requires that human vessel intact. But suddenly, Young-jin's laughter cuts through the noise, overpowering the demon. Agonized screams fill the temple as the demon watches in horror. Its cursed creature isn't regenerating. It's being devoured by the dragon's energy. Young-jin stands perfectly still, a silent reaper, watching as the cursed entity is utterly obliterated. The main demon freezes, incredulous. The protagonist is smiling. It stumbles backward, falling to the ground. He didn't just kill it, he devoured that demon. The beast companion tries to approach, but Young-jin turns sharply. He raises his sword high and slams it into the ground right in front of the creature, creating a barrier. The dog instantly understands the warning and stays back. Now, the protagonist turns his attention to the final target to finish the job. Young-jin steps closer to the trembling demon. The spirit stares up at him, mind racing. What is he? No human possesses this kind of aura. Something is terribly wrong. Instinct screams at her run. If she wants to survive this monster, she has to flee immediately. She bolts. Using every ounce of her supernatural strength, she bursts out of the temple, desperate for freedom. But she's not fast enough. The protagonist blurs into motion, tackling her and pinning her ruthlessly to the dirt. As the dust settles, the entity lets out a breath, thinking she might have a chance. But her blood runs cold. Young-jin is looming over her, his sword raised for the execution. She scrambles, trying to get up, her mind denying this reality. But the protagonist shows no mercy, shoving her violently back into the ground. True fear finally takes hold. She writhes in distress, screaming, "How dare you do this to me?" Her mind fractures, pulling her back to a memory. A time when she was about to be engulfed in scorching flames. "I was supposed to be a goddess," she shrieks, "after everything I endured." The scene shifts to the past, a quiet, rustic village. Sacks of rice, potatoes, and copper coins are piled high, offerings for a ceremony. Dozens of villagers kneel in the dirt, heads bowed in fervent prayer at the local temple. A shaman dances wildly for the gods, the bells chiming. Suddenly, she stops, eyes rolling back. She announces with a trembling voice, "The spirits are pleased. They have promised. Rain will fall tomorrow." However, the next day, the sun blazed down without mercy. She clenched her robes in fury, unable to understand why the rain refused to fall after her grand proclamation. Rage consumed her. She kicked her ritual tools across the ground, violently rejecting the tray that had brought her nothing but humiliation. She had felt no spiritual connection for days, Yet the pressure to deliver a prophecy remained. Doubt crept in, making her question if the gods truly existed at all. Perhaps from the very beginning, there were no spirits. It had simply been her own wit and manipulation all along. Suddenly, a noise broke her concentration. She spun around to find villagers watching her tantrum at the temple. As they fled in shock, the shaman's shame turned into seething anger. One man sneered, commenting that the priestess had clearly lost her powers for offending the heavens. Rumors spread like wildfire. They claimed she had desecrated the altar in a fit of madness, and that she had been a fraud from the start. Desperate to regain control, the shaman called out to him. She warned that a terrible plague would strike his home unless he offered a sack of rice to Jiawing. Immediately, the man scoffed at her demand. He accused her of wanting the rice for her own pantry, asking how she dared to scam him in broad daylight. His companion tried to intervene, reminding him that she had prayed for the village before. But the skeptic insisted she was a charlatan performing a cheap act. The village had gifted her a house for her blessings, yet she dared to repay their kindness with curses. He spat that he never wanted to see her face again. The shaman retorted sharply, asking if he had no fear of the heavens for mocking a messenger of the gods. The man laughed in her face, asking what will of the gods she spoke of when everyone knew her true nature. But the shaman's eyes went cold as she predicted he would fall ill. Just a few days later, the whispers in the village confirmed it was true. Fear took root once more. The villagers believed it was divine punishment for the disrespect shown to the priestess. Her warning had been absolute. Sickness descended upon his house, striking down not just the man, but his wife and children as well. Terrified, they summoned the priestess. After she performed her ritual, the illness vanished as mysteriously as it had arrived. Her reputation restored, the Park family next door prepared for a Samhain ritual. Gossip circulated that their son had been taken by a tiger, leaving them desperate for another child. From sudden sickness to high-stakes negotiations, the atmosphere in the village grew heavy with unease. Paranoia spread. The villagers felt they must appease the priestess at all costs, lest another calamity befall them. They whispered that the tiger was hunting babies. A mother was warned to keep a close watch, for little Donji had been seen wandering the night. The shaman continued her daily life, unfazed by the growing terror. Meanwhile, a frantic mother searched the darkness, screaming for Donji. Neighbors murmured that the boy had vanished into thin air, lamenting that she should have heeded their warnings. They tried to comfort themselves, saying he was just playing and would return for food. But deep inside the shaman's house, the missing child lay on the floor. The boy writhed in hunger. The shaman called out to a child named Suni, holding out a pot of food and asking in a chilling voice if he didn't want to eat. The starving child's eyes lit up with desperation as he crawled toward the bait. The shaman loomed over the boy with a sinister gaze. Moments later, she sealed something inside the jar. From the shadows, another terrified child witnessed the unspeakable ritual. Later, inside her home, the shaman feigned innocence, calling out for Donji. She mused aloud that bad children who wander at night get eaten by tigers. But the truth was far darker. Inside a large earthenware pot, the boy cowered in absolute terror. The next day, the shaman danced in the streets, celebrating her power. Donji's mother was praying nearby, consumed by grief, until she felt a tug on her clothes. She turned to see her son and collapsed, weeping with joy. But the reunion was cut short. Donji pointed a trembling finger at the dancer, accusing the shaman of capturing him. Shock rippled through the crowd. The child's testimony was the final blow, and the shaman's mask of divinity shattered completely. Enraged, the villagers stormed her home with torches. What they found inside the bamboo pots froze their blood. The belongings of all the missing children. Parents wailed in despair, screaming at her to return their little ones. They called her a monster, but the shaman simply laughed, telling them not to be hypocrites. She reminded them that they were the ones who had begged for miracles. They wanted their selfish desires granted, no matter the cost. It was their own greed that had offered up their children as tribute. She called them fools. The mob roared back that she was a witch and that the heavens would surely strike her down. The shaman scoffed at their threats. She told them that if benevolent gods actually existed, their children would never have met such a grim fate. A villager, blinded by fury, hurled a torch at her. Flames erupted instantly, engulfing the house and trapping the shaman within the inferno. As she burned, she declared that gods do not exist, only she does. Her expression twisted into something inhuman. With her dying breath, she vowed to ascend not as a spirit, but as a deity of curses, with the sole goal of becoming a dark goddess. Back in the present, a glowing spell circle erupts around the two combatants. Inside the mansion, the air grows heavy as the pots begin to shudder. Suddenly, the clay shatters. Dozens of vengeful spirits scream into the air. Rushing toward the fight, the spirits coalesce into phantom limbs for the shaman. She declares that the time for vengeance is now and lunges. But the protagonist effortlessly leaps clear of the attack. He plants his feet firmly on the ground, sprinting away as blasts of dark energy explode behind him. The corrupt shaman cackles, declaring that death has come for them all. As she conjures a swirling sphere of dark energy to obliterate the protagonist, the children scream for Young-jin to dodge, but Sun-ni holds them back. "Wait," she commands. Compared to that monster, Young-jin looks like he's barely even breaking a sweat. Catching the dark sphere with one hand like it's nothing, he rips his blade from the earth and launches himself straight at the enemy. He vanishes, reappearing instantly behind her. A single flash of steel severs the creature's arm, sending the beast crashing down as it desperately tries to heal. Cornered and enraged, the monster unleashes one final, catastrophic strike to take the protagonist down with it. The energy blast rips toward him, but he's already gone. Young-jin leaps skyward, soaring high above the battlefield with his sword ready. Ancient dragon aura erupts, forming a majestic beast behind his back. The sheer power leaves everyone stunned. Even Young-jin thinks that power is insane. Wondering just what this boy is, Young-jin charges, but suddenly, a fan snaps open. A blast of frost-laden wind slams into them, stopping the attack cold. The corrupted energy begins to unravel under the pressure, and Young-jin is blown back by the overwhelming force, tumbling through the air. The fan snaps shut with a sharp sound, leaving the protagonist sprawled on the ground. He's bewildered. A voice echoes, "All turbulent currents must be dispersed." As clouds gather to obscure the scene, Young-jin's transformation fades. The mysterious figure uses a Taoist art, sending the boy's sword flying. Standing there is Lord Ya, the god of the earthly branches. His gaze is freezing cold. The little spirits rush toward him, cheering. Big Brother has finally arrived. They frantically tell him about the terrifying monster and the human woman who was struck down in the chaos. The corrupted shaman twitches, terrifying the children. She stares at the newcomer, demanding to know how he possesses the aura of the gods. Lord Ya answers with absolute authority, "Because I am a god, a divinity of the earthly branches, and the Lord of the heavens." A real god. She trembles, while the children cower. Tears stream down the shaman's face as she crawls toward him. She clutches his robes in desperation. "Why?" she screams. "Why were my prayers ignored? Why didn't you visit me even once?" She begged and searched, but the heavens were silent. If he had just helped her back then, she wouldn't have become this monster. "How could you let me lose my life like this?" she wails. Lord Ya pulls away coldly, his eyes narrowing. "What prayers are you talking about? I saw your heart. Your prayers were nothing but selfish greed. No true God would ever listen to requests like those." Suddenly, the souls of the children she consumed begin to seep out from the entity's severed arm. Lord Ja's voice is like ice, blinded by greed. "You abandoned your path as a shaman and embraced the 10 evils. You have no right to feel wronged. You ignored the wailing of the innocent souls you destroyed." She tries to argue. "The humans made me do it," but Ya shuts her down instantly. "Silence. Even if your body burns for eternity, it won't be half the pain you inflicted on them. You will descend to hell for every stolen trinket, for every baby you hurt, and for every human you made suffer. Karma has come to collect your debt." With a flick of his wrist, he snaps his fan open, invoking the earthly branch magic of Mao. A singularity of black energy forms, crushing and trapping the demon. The sun turns into a pitch-black moon. The demon shrieks in terror. "No, please. I can't die like this. Have mercy. Just this once. Spare me." But Lord Ya is unmoved. As the black moon descends, he executes the final Taoist art. The monster is obliterated, not even dust remains. That was awesome. The spirits cheer. Ya turns to them. Where is the human woman? Bakyuni points out she was hit by a dagger. Ya approaches the temple where Hisu cradles her mother. The girl freezes as the deity draws near. Instinctively, Hisu shields her mother's body. Ya observes them softly. Fortunate, he murmurs. She is still breathing. With a heavy sigh, he opens his fan again, channeling the divine energy of the earthly branch. He invokes the art of the flowering meadow. A spectral blossom manifests above them, the flower of life, and its light touches the shaman. Flesh knits together, life returns to her pale face. The spirit children gasp. What a beautiful power. Lord Ya snaps the fan shut, sealing the spell. The woman is completely restored. Mom, Hisu cries. Ya assures her, don't worry, she is merely sleeping. The girl touches her mother's face, and the woman smiles in her slumber. Hisu starts to cry with relief. The spirits puff out their chests. See? Lord Ya is the first of the 12 earthly branch deities. Hisu opens her eyes, bowing her head deeply. Thank you for everything. Ya suddenly coughs, spotting blood on his sleeve. The magic took a toll. If you wish to thank me, he says, I have one favor to ask. He swings his fan wide. The spirits obey instantly, gathering near the mystical fluid mirror. Their vengeful forms fade, returning to innocent souls as Ya closes the fan. Hisu watches, eyes wide with wonder. When your mother wakes, Ya instructs, she must perform the ritual. Send these children, and those lost with them, to the afterlife in peace. He steps outside, his gaze falling on Young-jin. The boy is staring up at the clouds, lost in admiration for his ancestor. A smirk curled on the deity's lips. He barked at the dog, commanding the beast to step aside immediately. With a flick of his wrist, his fan cracked against the protagonist's skull. Young-jin groaned, blinking away the darkness as he found himself staring down a strange boy. Disoriented, he scanned the swirling clouds around them. What just happened? And what was that? Suddenly, an invisible force slammed him into the dirt. Young-jin scrambled to cover his legs, only to freeze. The world around him was absolute ruins. Panic set in. Where the hell am I? The terrifying memory of Hisu's mother collapsing crashed into his mind like a nightmare. He spun around to find his friend kneeling beside him, terror in her eyes. She cupped his face gently, her voice trembling. Are you okay? Young-jin pulled back, ignoring his own pain. I'm fine, but what about you? The question broke her composure, and tears began to spill. I'm just so relieved, she sobbed, guilt pouring out. I'm so sorry, this is all my fault. But Young-jin needed to know the truth. Is your mother safe? Yes, Hisu choked out. Lord Ya and the children, they healed her wounds completely. Young-jin frowned. He had no memory of any of this. Jin trotted over, eyeing him critically. Did you black out? Young-jin glared at his spirit ancestor. What exactly happened here? I'll explain on the way home. The dog grunted. Lord Ya chuckled from the side. I can't wait to hear how you spin this one. Confusion hung in the air until Hisu whispered the revelation. That is Lord Ya, a ruler of the heavens. Lord Ya stared intensely at Young-jin, who just muttered about his ruined soccer ball. The deity scoffed and spat on the ground in disbelief. The spirit children tugged at Lord Ja's robes, asking if he was well. With a snap of his fan, the god declared, "It is time." In a blink, they vanished into thin air. The heavens themselves protected you, Young-jin, a voice murmured. The protagonist tried to stammer out an explanation about the soccer ball again, but the words died in his throat. Hisu froze, her ears twitching at a familiar sound. Someone was calling her name. There she was. Her mother stood waiting, a warm, healthy smile on her face. Hisu sprinted into her arms, sobbing. Young-jin watched, a gentle smile touching his lips. Watching from the shadows of the gate, Mang wiped away manly tears at the touching reunion. He quietly placed a woven basket on the ground. Tigers take crying children, he muttered to himself, but good kids deserve a rice cake. Leaving the gift behind, the spirit faded away. Later, back at the apartment, a harsh reality check arrived. A text notification, *, delivery complete 8 hours ago, *. Just great, Young-jin groaned. It's all thought out. He glared at the dog. What are you? The village magistrate of food supplies. Wi-Soo paid for this. It's just a delivery, Young-jin retorted. Jin bristled, offended at being treated like a common mutt. As Young-jin punched in the door code, the dog barked indignantly. I let a lot slide, but watch your tone. Is that how you speak to your ancestor? Young-jin rolled his eyes. Cut the act if you want to eat tonight. Insolent brat, the dog grumbled. Just get inside. Young-jin ushered him in and carefully placed the ancient sword on the rack. Hurry up with dinner, Jin demanded, pacing the floor. I am beyond starving in this form. Young-jin checked his phone. Messages from Wi-Soo filled the screen, apologizing again and promising that if he ever got in trouble, she'd be the first to save him. He tapped out a quick reply and pocketed the device. Miles away, Wi-Soo's phone buzzed. Her eyes widened. A radiant smile broke across her face. The message was simple. Stop apologizing. It's okay. Back at the table, Young-jin chewed thoughtfully. So while I was out, that kid destroyed the two-headed monster and healed Wi-Soo's mom? Correct, Jin replied. Young-jin sighed. I missed everything. That guy, Lord Ya. He must be an ancestral spirit like you. He is no ancestor of mine. Jin scoffed, gulping down his food. Then why didn't you do anything? Young-jin asked, frustration rising. You could have handled it. The dog stopped eating. The silence was heavy. It wasn't a choice, Jin said, his voice dropping. There was simply nothing I could do. I was powerless. So the sword you drag around is just a prop, Young-jin challenged. In my current state? Yes, Jin admitted bitterly. I saved you from that Sasuke spirit, Jin growled. But the price was high. It poisoned me. The truth came out. You died that night, Young-jin. To bring you back, I poured every ounce of my remaining power into your body. Your monstrous healing factor, Jin continued. That is merely a remnant of my strength coursing through you. Young-jin sat stunned. I told you, Jin said. I need you to help me recover my strength. But outside, danger was already watching. A figure with a bow lurked on the rooftop. The mysterious woman stared coldly at the house from atop a utility pole, eyes locking onto her target before vanishing into the night. The next morning, Young-jin buttoned his school shirt wincing. His arm throbbed with a deep ache, and his legs felt like lead. Is this for real? He muttered, flexing his stiff muscles. A little running shouldn't make me feel like I got hit by a truck. Jin looked up from the floor. Boy, do you possess a chronicle? A record of history describing how this world has developed. Young-jin blinked, confused. What are you talking about? Does such a text exist? Jin pressed. Young-jin smirked. Ironic coming from an ancient spirit. But Jin was deadly serious. I need to know what that book was. Young-jin explains that the item holds the history of the entire area. But duty calls, he announces he's off to school, and a soft voice wishes him a good class. On the commute, the protagonist keeps his eyes glued to his screen, unaware of the world around him. In the hallway, a student scans the air with a ghost hunter app. He groans in frustration at the empty reading, until someone snatches the device right out of his hand. A group of girls glares at him. They demand to know what he was filming and if this is some sick prank. The boy stammers, claiming he wasn't recording, but they corner him for an answer. Desperate, he explains it's just a ghost detector spiritual app, nothing perverse. The girls demand to see his gallery immediately. The nervous student swears he didn't hit record. He was only viewing the spectral plane. Suddenly, a hand lands heavily on his shoulder. A classmate sighs, asking if Ji-Hwan is hunting phantoms again. He turns to the girls and apologizes on Ji-Hwan's behalf, explaining the guy is obsessed with the occult and was just sweeping the school for spirits. One girl swipes the phone back, muttering that he's been a weirdo since middle school, so they should cut him some slack. Jin-woo chimes in, noting his friend's surprising empathy. Duk-young jumps in, insisting they've got it all wrong. He tells Ji-Hwan to put the phone away because the guy has way cooler equipment stashed elsewhere. The girl scrolls through the gallery and bursts out laughing. It's full of selfies. The guy was trying way too hard to look cool in every single shot. Duk-young apologizes again, and the girls finally let it slide. A friend calls out to Jin-woo, telling him to knock off the antics. She complains that he's always running around with a camera, courting disaster. But he digs his heels in, swearing he can explain everything properly. She warns him that at this rate, his little hobby is going to land him straight in the principal's office. Duk-young argues he can make his point without foul language. The girl shoots back that he wasn't cursing, he was just spouting absolute nonsense. Undeterred, the guy continues his story. His friend was on his floor, backpack still on. A chill runs down his spine as he realizes they might be dealing with actual ghosts. Hara tells Duk-young not to buy a single word of it. She admits she's only acting this way because she made the mistake of trusting him before. Jin-woo bristles, asking what he supposedly did wrong and who they think they are to judge him. They call him arrogant for trusting no one but himself. Yet, even they have to admit things got strange during the school retreat. Duk-young reminds them of the time Ji-Hwan recorded a disembodied voice in the hallway, followed by bizarre, garbled words on the radio. Hara scoffs, dismissing it as a glitch. She argues it was just an electronic error caused by stray electromagnetic waves. Ji-Hwan grins. She's absolutely right, it was a signal error, because ghosts are composed of powerful magnetic fields. He asks what happens when spirits enter an electromagnetic field. Lights flicker, sensors fail. The supernatural clashes with the physical. They cause interference, making devices act completely insane. Impressed, he notes that Hara knows more than she lets on and offers to make her his apprentice. When she asks where he saw a ghost, Ji-Hwan smirks, saying it looked exactly like her. Hara fumes, snapping that she was actually trying to have a serious conversation. She holds back her rage and asks what he's doing with those toys. Suddenly, a high-pitched beep screams from the device right near Young-jin's classroom. Duk-young freezes. That signal means there's a ghost in their class. He asks if Ji-Hwan wants to go in, promising to clear it with the others. A female student approaches Duk-young, eyeing the newcomer suspiciously. Duk-young introduces him as Ji-Hwan, an eccentric friend from middle school. Ji-Hwan asks to scan their classroom. The girls shrug, they don't care, but their eyes are glued to the strange radio in his hand. Ji-Hwan snaps at her not to touch it. If she handles it with that much negative energy, the delicate equipment could shatter. Other classmates wave Duk-young over. Meanwhile, Young-jin's phone buzzes. It's a message from Hee-soo. She demands he come to the science lab immediately. She has something for him, adding that it would look too suspicious if she came to his class. The protagonist texts back, asking if it can wait until after school. The answer is a hard no. He sighs, standing up and telling his friends he needs the restroom. He heads for the exit, but stops. The doorway is blocked by the so-called popular kids, lounging like they own the place. He hesitates. Does he have the nerve to make them move? He has to leave through the front. Sneaking out the back like a coward isn't an option. Duk-young spots the protagonist standing there. He immediately barks at the group to clear the door, flashing a knowing smile at Young-jin. His friends gasp in awe. He's definitely the man. One glare was all it took to make the crowd part like the Red Sea. Young-jin steps through the cleared path, brushing past Ji-Hwan. Suddenly, the radio and every detector in Ji-Hwan's arsenal shriek in agony. Duk-young jumps, asking what the hell just happened. Ji-Hwan stares at the readings. The ghost detector went nuclear the moment that boy walked by. It seems they've found their anomaly. In the quiet of the science lab, Hee-soo hands him a bracelet. She explains her mother made a small one for her and insisted on giving one to him as well. The protagonist raises an eyebrow, asking if she dragged him here just for this. He accepts the bracelet, telling her to pass on his thanks. Hee-soo watches him closely, asking if he plans to put it on right now. The protagonist hesitates. If he wears the same one as her, she cuts him off, flushing. People might think it's a couple's item, but she insists it's just a rosary. Surely, plenty of others wear them too. Besides, from his perspective, this looks suspiciously like a couple's bracelet. But she wasn't taking no for an answer. Her mother had crafted this talisman specifically to ward off the darkness, fearing the danger would return. Young-jin waved it off. The nightmare was over. The ancient spirit had assured him they were safe now. When she pressed him for details, he shrugged. Something about ancestral energy merging with his own soul to heal him. Flashes of that bloody day, and the life she almost lost haunted him. It was better to leave those memories buried deep. That spiritual fusion explained his miraculous recovery. He was ready to embrace a normal, boring life, and that was that. Wi-Soo nodded slowly. If his bloodline's power had truly awakened, perhaps he didn't need the protective charm after all. But doubt lingered in her eyes. You moved like a master swordsman that night. The blade felt light in your hands. Young-jin froze. I fought. The memory was a blank void. Wi-Soo whispered, do you honestly not remember? At the prayer house, you were unstoppable. Suddenly, his body moved on its own. A hand shot out, slapping her phone away and clamping over her mouth to silence her. Silence screamed between them. Horrified, Young-jin recoiled, staring at his own trembling hand. I didn't mean to do that. Static crackled from a radio nearby, followed by a voice dripping with amusement. Someone had been listening. My apologies, the stranger smirked, stepping from the shadows. But your conversation was far too intriguing to ignore. He pushed up his glasses, the lenses flashing ominously. The name is Ji-Hwan, and my profession, I hunt ghosts. A ghost hunter, the claim hung in the air. Ji-Hwan turned his gaze to Wi-Soo. A pleasure, daughter of the great shaman. Wi-Soo stiffened. How do you know that? Young-jin stepped in. That's not exactly a secret around here. True, Ji-Hwan admitted. I know every whisper and legend of this school. That's why I transferred here. Have you heard of the sprinting statue? It was a famous horror story among the seniors. Young-jin shook his head, and Wi-Soo looked equally lost. Ji-Hwan's voice dropped to a whisper. Legend says the statue at Sampo High comes alive when the moon rises. If it catches you looking, you have to race it. Lose or cheat, you get bludgeoned by a flagstaff. Based on the chaos it leaves behind, it's a classic poltergeist manifestation. The steel flagpole gets ripped out of the concrete like a weed. No typhoon could do that. For times since the semester started, the pattern is undeniable. The two listened, stunned by the detail. And recently, Ji-Hwan's eyes narrowed. I confirmed the legend wasn't just a story. I saw it with my own eyes. I was leaving the restroom when reality bent. It wasn't a hallucination. That stone monster was sprinting. It was chasing the students, a terrified boy, and a girl with her hair tied up, guarding his back. The next morning, the flagpole was destroyed. My EMF reader hit level 5 maximum spectral activity. But since that night, dead silence, not even a level 1 reading. The entity didn't just leave the statue, it vanished. Or rather, it moved. He pointed a finger at them. It was you too, wasn't it? Young-jin scoffed, calling him crazy, but Ji-Hwan shook his head. Your reaction gives you away. Normal people would laugh or call me insane, but you just denied it calmly. You didn't ask if ghosts exist. You just said it wasn't you. That is my proof. Ghosts are essentially complex electromagnetic fields. And this little toy, he held up his device. It screams whenever it gets close to you, Young-jin. Off the charts. Level 5. The verdict is clear. That statue's spirit, it's sitting right inside your soul. Show me the proof, Young-jin snapped. The machine doesn't lie, Ji-Hwan countered calmly. Every sensor I have goes haywire around you. Young-jin gritted his teeth, playing dumb. Enough riddles. I don't need your theories. What do you actually want from us? Are you colleagues, ghost hunters? Ji-Hwan asked, his eyes gleaming. But the terms meant nothing to them. It sounded like nonsense from a fantasy novel. Young-jin had heard enough. Listen, Four Eyes. That statue has nothing to do with us. He grabbed Wi-Soo's arm to leave. We're done here. But Ji-Hwan wasn't finished yet. A recording started playing from his phone. Cameras these days catch everything in professional quality, he mused. Young-jin froze. The image on the screen was crystal clear. It was undeniable proof taken from a distance. Relax, I'm not the villain here, Ji-Hwan smiled thinly. You're certainly acting like one. Wi-Soo shot back. Ji-Hwan adjusted his glasses one last time. I merely have a proposition. Tell me, have you ever heard of the supernatural antique shop? The classroom was an oasis of calm, and Duk-young was enjoying a peaceful nap until a presence behind him shattered the silence. A classmate loomed over him, extending a mysterious box with trembling hands, insisting it was a gift meant only for him. Duk-young stared at the object in confusion. It was the first time a guy had ever given him a gift. He offered a polite thanks, but his eyes were blank as he asked for the stranger's name. Having absolutely no memory of him, the student's expression twisted into disbelief. "No way," he whispered, his voice dripping with venom as he called Do-kyung a hypocrite. Do-kyung could only blink in stunned surprise. Suddenly, an eerie light erupted from the box, revealing a doll and a single die. The glow intensified, blinding and malevolent, as a spirit clawed its way out and lunged straight for Do-kyung. Time seemed to warp as the day pressed on. The teacher's voice droned in the background, asking about last week's lesson. But the atmosphere had shifted. Young-jin rubbed his temples, fighting a wave of unnatural exhaustion. But his fatigue vanished the moment he checked his phone under the desk. A message from the paranormal investigator had just come through. Young-jin stared at the screen, bewildered. He demanded to know how the stranger got his number. The reply was short and chilling. Wi-Soo had given it to him. The investigator pleaded for Young-jin to accompany him to the antique shop just once. But the protagonist wasn't about to walk into a trap and coldly refused. He texted back, insisting that Ji-Hwan needed professional psychiatric help, not an adventure. But the reply was adamant Wi-Soo would only go if he was there. The tension in the room spiked as the teacher called out to an empty desk. Everyone turned. It was Do-kyung's seat, the class vice president, vacant and ominous. Whispers spread through the room. He had definitely been at school earlier. Had he skipped, or was he hiding in the bathroom? The speculation ended with a crash. The classroom door flew open, and Do-kyung stood in the frame. A murmur of relief and confusion swept through the students. He had finally arrived. The teacher demanded an explanation for his absence. Do-kyung stood silent for a few heavy seconds, his eyes unreadable. Before muttering a hollow apology, he began walking toward the window, ignoring his assigned desk completely. His friend called out in confusion, pointing to his actual seat. Do-kyung finally sat, but the protagonist felt a chill run down his spine. Something about him was dreadfully wrong. Meanwhile, in the shadows, the mysterious student from before spun the cursed die between his fingers with a sinister rhythm. A classmate whispered that Do-kyung, usually a stickler for punctuality, had almost been marked late, but the murmurs died down when Do-kyung suddenly held out a fist. The other student instinctively bumped his fist back. A grin spread across Do-kyung's face as he challenged him to rock, paper, scissors. The bet? 10,000 won. But his friend nervously laughed, claiming he was broke. The mysterious guy from the back interjected, his voice smooth as silk. He suggested paying with a favor instead. The classmate hesitated, eyeing the invisible 10,000 won on the table. Greed won out, and he took the deal. Do-kyung initiated the game, throwing scissors. He lost instantly. The classmate cheered in triumph, declaring that real men always choose rock. Do-kyung didn't even flinch. He handed over a crisp 10,000 won bill, claiming he had bet on the outcome too. With a dangerous glint in his eye, Do-kyung asked for a rematch. His classmate, emboldened by the easy money, agreed immediately. But this time, the stakes were raised to 50,000 won. His friend marveled at the escalation, noting that the rich played on a different level. The hands moved, the game ended, and once again, the classmate lost. Frustration boiled over, but before he could react, Do-kyung's hand shot out. A violent shove sent the boy crashing to the floor, leaving the room in stunned silence. Panic erupted as students demanded to know what just happened. Do-kyung threw his head back and laughed, a manic sound. He declared that a real man takes risks, yet he had only thrown rock. His friends scrambled to help Park up from the floor. Park was dazed, his eyes unfocused. Someone shouted that they needed to call the nurse immediately. Do-kyung turned to the horrified crowd, his face a mask of innocence. He asked what the problem was. It was just a joke. He grabbed Park's arm, reminding him that he won the 10,000, so they were square. He mocked Park, saying he was holding onto the money a little too tightly. His friend stepped back, muttering that this was way too intense for a prank. Do-kyung's smile didn't reach his eyes. He asked if it was supposed to be a joke, reminding him that he had paid the 10,000 won for real. He had warned him about the consequences, and Park had agreed to the terms. Park tried to deny it, but Duk-young stood up abruptly, sneering that the game was no longer fun. He turned and walked out of the suffocating classroom, leaving the other students to tend to Park, who was still trembling from the assault. Shawl whispered that this looked like the opening scene of a bullying drama. Another friend countered, saying it felt more like an isekai story where a villain had reincarnated into Duk-young's body. The protagonist watched the door close, his mind racing. The transformation was too sudden, too absolute. Elsewhere in the school, rumors were already swirling about Duk-young's erratic behavior. He had never lost his temper before. It was as if a demon had worn his skin. His aura was intimidating, terrifying even. But one optimist suggested that since Duk-young took acting classes, he might just be method acting for an upcoming audition. They debated if anyone would really practice this realistically at school. If so, he must have landed the role of a psychotic problem child. A brave male student decided to intervene and called out to Duk-young in the hallway. He scolded him, warning that he shouldn't be breaking school rules in the middle of class, especially with the teacher due back any second. Duk-young leaned in, whispering that the guy's voice was so pathetic he couldn't even hear it. He told him to speak up. The students watched in horror. Duk-young was spiraling out of control. He stepped closer, invading the student's personal space, claiming he was just kidding. But the air was thick with malice. The classmate stammered, repeating that the teacher was coming. Duk-young's eyes lit up with a twisted idea. He suggested they place a bet on it. He slammed 10,000 to 1 down, betting the teacher would walk in the moment the bell rang. He offered the same payout for the opposite outcome, and if the guy was broke, he could pay with his body or a favor. The student began to tremble in fear as Duk-young mocked his shaking hands. But the torture was interrupted when Shira stepped into the fray. She appeared at the classroom door like a storm. She shouted Duk-young's name, and the bully paused as she grabbed his arm with a vice-like grip, ordering him to come outside. Duk-young ripped his arm free with surprising force. Shira glared at him, demanding to know what demon had gotten into him and where he got that cursed die, knowing full well he used to hate breaking the rules. Duk-young flicks the die into the air with practiced ease. Kara scowls, snapping at him to ask if he's even listening to a single word she says. He ignores her anger, asking simply, even or odd? Kara hisses that she isn't in the mood for games, but he pressures her to choose. Reluctantly, she whispers, odd. A twisted grin spreads across his face as he reveals it too. She lost. He pulls her in close, whispering that now she owes him a very special favor. Fear makes her tremble, but she finds the strength to shove him away. She spits out the word creep with venom in her voice. From the shadows, a classmate watches the scene, a strange mark pulsing on his neck. Time slips by, and soon Ji-Hwan is wandering the halls after school. He unlocks his phone, fingers flying as he begs Young-jin for help once more. He questions if being in the same space will actually change their fate. Ji-Hwan steps into the classroom, muttering a polite excuse. Suddenly, his detector screeches red. The target is close to close. He scans the room, announcing that hiding is futile against his paranormal tracking gear. Abruptly, his hand brushes against Duk-young. Ji-Hwan jumps out of his skin, dropping the expensive detector to the cold floor. He calls out to his friend, but a foul, unnatural stench hits his nose. Duk-young bends down, snatching up the device and inspecting it with curious eyes. The machine goes haywire, screaming a warning into Ji-Hwan's earpiece. A high-pitched whine pierces the air, making the boy flinch. Confused by the sudden malfunction, Ji-Hwan stammers, begging Duk-young to just call Young-jin for him. Then he sees the spirit's voice on the display, screaming for help. Terrified, Ji-Hwan smashes the cursed radio against the ground, shattering it instantly. Duk-young looks at the mess, unimpressed. He sneers, asking if Ji-Hwan lacks basic manners. Shouldn't he apologize for bumping into someone? Ji-Hwan mumbles a terrified apology. Duk-young just tosses his die into the air, catching it with a snap, and demands, guess, left or right. Elsewhere, Hee-soo stares at the tarot spread. She flips the devil card and whispers the grim truth. He is possessed. Duk-young has been taken by a spirit, but Young-jin looks bored out of his mind. Hee-soo stands up, challenging the legendary ghost hunter Young-jin. Young-jin asks why this is his problem. She insists they must save a friend. But Young-jin coldly points out that Do-kyung is nothing more than a stranger to him. He scoffs, asking how she can be so certain of possession based on a flimsy piece of cardboard. He was fine this morning, Young-jin argues. People don't just get possessed. That's probably just his rotten personality. He dismisses the mood swings as teenage drama, noting that nobody is dying. Ji-Soo pauses, considering his callous words. Young-jin warns her never to use his hunter title where others might hear. Ji-Soo stares at him, wondering if there is any good left in his heart. If Do-kyung is possessed, he must be in agony, just like she was when her own body was stolen from her control. The thought is heartbreaking. Suddenly, Ji-Hwan bursts in, declaring that he's known Do-kyung since middle school and needs to speak. Do-kyung is timid. He insists. He can't handle confrontation. This aggressive behavior is completely out of character. He doesn't have the guts to gamble, Ji-Hwan adds. He then turns to Young-jin, asking if he didn't sense anything in the classroom. Ji-Soo points to the bruise on Ji-Hwan's face. I was hit, he trembles, by the ghost. He begs for help, but Young-jin stays cold. Desperate, Ji-Hwan promises not to drag him to the haunted shop and apologizes for his earlier mistakes. He echoes Ji-Soo's words, reminding Young-jin of the horror of having one's body hijacked. Because she survived and learned to exorcise spirits, she is standing here today. We aren't hunters, Ji-Hwan cries. Young-jin cuts him off, sick of the story and wanting no part of this mess. Suddenly, Ji-Soo's eyes lock onto a notification on her phone screen. Ji-Hwan announces that the deposit has been sent. I'll pay anything you want later, he sobs. Just please, help him. He recalls the moment he was struck, his glasses flying off as he begged the entity to spare Do-kyung. The radio had crackled for backup while Do-kyung stared at him with a macabre, twisted smile. Yet Young-jin still refuses to believe it. Ji-Soo decides she's heard enough. She glances at Ji-Hwan, signaling she will handle it, and marches out of the room. Young-jin is left alone in the silence. He sighs, wondering what kind of disaster they are trying to drag him into this time. Can't we just live normally? He thinks, exhausted by the supernatural world. He makes a vow, from this moment on, his own safety comes first. He will never get involved again. As he walks down the hall, he spots Do-kyung boasting about girls coming to see him. Young-jin thinks this shallow behavior suits the guy better anyway. But as he pauses, his body betrays him. His hand shoots out on its own, grabbing Do-kyung by the collar. Young-jin freezes, stunned by his own reflex. Ji-Soo arrives just in time to see him gripping Do-kyung's shirt tight. A smile touches her lips. She thinks he changed his mind to perform the exorcism. Just as she suspected, he is kind after all. A classmate demands to know what's happening. Young-jin yanks his hand back, stammering an apology, claiming it wasn't him. Do-kyung smirks. If it wasn't you, then whose hand was it? Do-kyung plucks a die from his collar and flicks it toward Young-jin. He traps it against his palm, his eyes gleaming dangerously. Let's play, friend. Do-kyung smirked, demanding he guess which hand held the prize. Young-jin questioned reality. Why was this happening now? But his body betrayed him. His hand moved with a mind of its own, pointing straight at one of Do-kyung's clenched fists. The thug's jaw dropped slightly. He had actually guessed right. Do-kyung brushed past him, his voice dripping with a warning to tread carefully next time. Young-jin stood there, utterly baffled, while Do-kyung glared back with ice-cold eyes. Later in the classroom, the protagonist stared at his trembling palm, desperate for answers. Without warning, his fingers curled into a fist. The sudden movement sent a jolt of pure shock through his system. His hand shot up, smacking his own face. Ji-Hwan watched the spectacle, asking if Young-jin had left his brain at home or if he was secretly training for a slap boxing tournament. Desperate to prove it, Young-jin ordered his friend to grab his arm, not the left, but the right. Suddenly, the limb whipped around with terrifying speed, startling them both. Ji-Hwan recoiled, asking if he really had to participate in these lame skits. This whole situation was giving him the creeps. The protagonist insisted it wasn't a joke. His left hand was moving completely on its own volition. A classmate chimed in with a diagnosis: alien hand syndrome. It was a condition where a limb acted without the owner's will, guided by some phantom force. Young-jin realized that sounded exactly like his nightmare. It made sense. He had been hurt recently. His body felt stiff, almost paralyzed. But then, a dark presence loomed behind him. A fist came flying out of nowhere. But before it could connect, Young-jin's hand shot up automatically, intercepting the attack with supernatural precision. Sihu laughed, mocking that Young-jin had been beaten so much his body now reacted on autopilot. The protagonist tried to explain the truth, but Sihu cut him off, telling him to drop the act. Sihu changed the subject. He asked if Deok-young was in class because he needed someone to retrieve a personal item from him. Young-jin asked why he didn't just go get it himself. Sihu shrugged, admitting he was simply too lazy to move. The protagonist argued it was more hassle to come all this way just to ask him. Besides, Sihu had literally walked past Class 3 to get here. Sihu's expression darkened, warning him not to be annoying. Young-jin tried to stand his ground, but his traitorous hand began to twitch again. Against his will, he announced he would go get it right now. As he marched off, Sihu laughed at the bizarre, jerky way the protagonist was walking. Meanwhile, Ji-Hwan was tracking something in the hallway. He stared at a strange device, watching a green light pulse toward a specific location. He pointed a second sensor at the wall. The frequency was normal at first, but suddenly, the readings plummeted into negative degrees. Ji-Hwan gasped in surprise. Hidden right there at the end of the hall sat a mysterious wooden box. Back in the classroom, Young-jin walked in nervously. He wondered if he should play dumb or if he was walking straight into another disaster. Deok-young sneered, asking if he was prowling around like a fool to place a bet. Young-jin denied it, explaining that Sihu sent him to collect a borrowed item. Deok-young's memory clicked. Sihu had lost a bet and handed the item over as collateral to avoid trouble. That was exactly the item Young-jin had been sent to retrieve. Young-jin muttered that Sihu had conveniently left out that detail. Deok-young smirked, asking if he was willing to suffer for Sihu's sake. The protagonist wondered why he was even doing this. Fine, you can have it. Deok-young rose from his chair, claiming since it was his before, he would return it. Young-jin reached out to accept it, but as he turned, he came face to face with a pair of dice. Deok-young snatched the dice back. There was a condition. He had to guess correctly, evens or odds. The entire classroom fell silent in surprise. The protagonist tried to back out, telling him to just keep it. But Deok-young shook his head. The boy still didn't understand the situation. Young-jin argued he had nothing to gain from this game. The bully didn't care and commanded him to choose. The protagonist bet on even. Deok-young hummed a tune, opening his palm to reveal the result. It was an odd number. A cruel grin formed as he raised his hand to strike. Ji-Hwan rushed toward Young-jin as the girls screamed in terror. But as the blow descended, the protagonist's hand moved faster than light. He parried the strike and flicked Deok-young's forehead with explosive force. The bully's eyes went wide, and he was launched backward by the sheer power of the finger flick. Young-jin stood there, utterly confused by his own strength. The class erupted. What just happened? He literally flew across the room. Deok-young scrambled up from the floor, clutching his throbbing face in pain. Young-jin stared at his left hand. He needed to invent an excuse fast before they realized he was a monster. Ji-Hwan asked if they were going to keep this up, while his friends whispered that Young-jin must have been hiding his true potential. A girl nearby questioned the logic. Young-jin improvised wildly, claiming Deok-young asked him to be his practice partner. The crowd nodded. He was preparing for acting, so the stunt made sense. The protagonist couldn't believe they bought that weak lie. But suddenly, everyone started clapping, praising Deok-young for his complete acting performance. The boy lowered his hand, revealing a dark purple bruise on his forehead. He stared at Young-jin, a strange light in his eyes that was very interesting. The protagonist gulped. The situation hadn't been diffused. It had just become infinitely more complicated. People murmured that the two seemed to be close friends now. Meanwhile, a student named Wi-Soo watched silently from the hallway. In that same hallway, Ji-Hwan examined the wooden box. It was radiating a suspicious, ominous energy. Was that ancient writing etched into the wood? There was a seal on the lid, too. This was definitely a spiritual artifact. He wondered why a cursed item from the antique shop had found its way into a high school. Suddenly, Chira reaches out to her friend with urgent news. Outside, Ji-Won drops a bombshell. Do-kyung isn't just acting strange, he is a ghost. The real Do-kyung is likely in a spirit state, hovering helplessly near his hijacked body. When the entity struck him, Ji-Won managed to capture its frequency on the ghost box. Chira demands an explanation immediately. Ji-Won explains that the device stitches together radio waves, allowing the spirit to form a coherent message. Chira asks the terrifying question, "What did the real Do-kyung say?" The young man repeats the chilling message. It was a desperate cry for help. Tears silently stream onto Chira's cell phone screen. Ji-Won asks if she is alright, but she brushes it off as nothing. Ji-Won notes that when they used the cheap device earlier, her reaction was completely different. Chira clenches her fists. That helpless cry is typical of the real Do-kyung. But the thing wearing his face, that is definitely not him. Impossible things are happening, so they have no choice but to believe the supernatural. Earlier, those eyes were devoid of humanity. They were absolutely terrifying. The real Do-kyung must be petrified right now, wondering why this nightmare suddenly fell upon him. Ji-Won points out the timeline. Do-kyung was fine before first period, but immediately after, the transformation occurred. Chira asks what happened in that brief window of time. Ji-Won's eyes sharpen. He knows. The culprit is hiding inside the school. Chira agrees. Do-kyung had mentioned there was something at the school. She wonders if this is it, though Ji-Won admits he can't be 100% sure yet. However, he managed to secure some proof. If this isn't the answer, then nothing else makes sense. He vows to exorcise this arrogant entity personally. He turns to Chira with burning resolve. Today, she will witness his awakening as a true exorcist. As the day drags on, Young-jin stares at his arm. He recalls the encounter when he touched Do-kyung's forehead. A massive force repelled him. It was pure, unadulterated brute force. Suddenly, a hand grips his shoulder. It is Do-kyung, asking with a twisted smile if he wants to play a game. Young-jin tries to leave, saying he is heading home to his ill-mannered dog. Do-kyung insists they play at his house instead, but the possessed boy refuses to let go. He grabs Young-jin's wrist tighter, demanding they play just one more time. Suddenly, the bracelet Wi-Soo gave him flares with light. The spiritual power of the artifact surges, forcefully blasting Do-kyung's hand away. The possessed boy trembles, staring at his hand, confused by the holy rejection. Young-jin grins. The reaction is undeniable. He starts swinging his arm like a weapon, forcing the entity to retreat. Young-jin charges forward, flailing his arm to make contact. The boy's face twists in annoyance as he mutters. He just needs a little more time for his full strength to return before fleeing. Back at home, Young-jin collapses, complaining that he feels permanently damaged. He questions if this exhaustion is caused by Ji-Han's power. He vows to settle the score with the ghost. Ji-Han, the dog entity, suggests bringing the ghost over as a snack. He is starving. Young-jin snaps back in anger. This cursed left hand has caused nothing but trouble since he got it. The dog scoffs, reminding him that he transferred his power to save Young-jin's life. It is because of this aura that ghosts don't attack. Young-jin counters, didn't they attack the dog before? He wonders if this power is actually a beacon, provoking the spirits since they even managed to land a hit on him. They seem to control his arm as they please. Ji-Han drops a bombshell. That isn't Young-jin's arm anymore. Young-jin swings his left hand, confused. The ancestor asks if he has forgotten. Wasn't his original arm severely mangled by the puppet? Ji-Han sighs deeply. To put it simply, that left arm contains the last remnants of his essence. It was forged from the power of the Black Dragon. Elsewhere, Ji-Won checks his phone map. It directs him to a shaman's shop that looks suspiciously like a rotting abandoned house. He wonders if this is the right place. Chira comments on the creepy atmosphere, but they have no choice but to investigate. Ji-Won drops his backpack, instructing Chira to wait outside. If they enter together, it will look too suspicious. He will brave the darkness alone. Back at the apartment, Ji-Han explains his origins. His power was once composed of the red, blue, white, and black dragons. However, now they have all vanished. His left arm is the sole survivor, the only power he has left. It was made from the black dragon, the strongest of them all, but also a dangerously arrogant power. Young-jin is stunned by the revelation. He asks what happens if Ji-Hwan takes it back. The answer is cold. Young-jin would be left with one arm. He would be completely disabled. Ji-Hwan asks why he hates it so much in such a puny human body. This power brings no loss. Young-jin retorts that it is ruining his school life. Ignoring him, Ji-Hwan says he has a more important question. He wants to know if there is any record of the guardian god or the 12 clans. In the history book, the records stop after Dangan. Young-jin points to the Three Kingdoms era, asking what he means. Ji-Hwan shakes his head. That is not it. The protagonist asks what exactly he is searching for, as this is all history has to offer. Ji-Hwan finds this erasure incredibly strange. Suddenly, a voice calls out Young-jin's name from the shadows of his house. Inside the antique ghost shop, Ji-Hwan places his camera on a shelf. Is anyone here? An old woman's creaky voice answers from the dark. Did you come to buy something? Ji-Hwan greets the darkness while the camera records everything. Outside, Chira stares at the spectrogram, and her blood runs cold. She analyzed the data Ji-Hwan had provided with razor-sharp focus. If they were truly alone, and those ominous green lines materialized, she had to signal him immediately, because one of those spectral threads was attached to his very soul. Ji-Hwan wasted no time, asking point-blank if the cursed object originated from this shop. The old woman demanded his business, and the boy smirked internally. He knew she was the source. He feigned ignorance, asking if she could please teach him how to shatter the curse. The crone scoffed, her voice like grinding stones. That is a sorcerer's burden. I merely provide the tools. Ji-Hwan pressed harder, asking if a student from Sampo in the same uniform had purchased this. The old woman shut him down instantly. Client confidentiality was absolute. Ji-Hwan realized this wouldn't be a walk in the park. The woman narrowed her eyes, asking why his demeanor had shifted from discreet to interrogative so suddenly. The boy shrugged, his expression relaxing into a mask of calm. He claimed he was just testing her discretion, and now that he trusted her silence, he was ready to buy. He spun a lie about a friend referring him, acknowledging that such a powerful cursing item required the utmost secrecy. Satisfied, the old woman placed a box on the table. She warned him that cursed items possess a gazing effect. He must never look directly at the contents. This was the amulet the sorcerer required. She added a chilling condition. If this was merely for a prank, he must destroy it within 49 hours. Ji-Hwan asked if that would break the curse. The woman nodded, but the boy pushed further what would happen if he waited longer. The woman's eyes darted suspiciously as she claimed ignorance. Ji-Hwan grinned, replying that her answer was just perfect. His instinct screamed that something was wrong. He already knew the cure, but he needed the price. The catch, he hadn't brought a single dime. The woman demanded a different kind of payment. She told him to place his fingernail and hair inside the box and sign his name. Ji-Hwan noted that this wasn't exactly free. The old woman smiled grimly. What she demanded was far more valuable than cash. The boy feigned panic. He claimed to suffer from genetic hair loss and was under strict treatment. He couldn't spare a single strand. He then displayed his ragged nails, claiming they were in no state to be cut. He suggested he simply write his name today and return when his nails had grown back. He moved to sign, but the woman's hand shot out, gripping his wrist like an iron pincer. She ordered him to use a thumbprint instead. Ji-Hwan questioned the demand, his eyes locking onto the sharp object she held with menacing intent. He quickly lied about a rare skin condition, insisting he needed to take precautions. The boy retreated to the corner of the shop, rummaging through his bag as the tension in the room thickened. He pulled out a small red pen, calling out to the woman repeatedly. He explained his condition prevented him from risking injury. While she muttered about how troublesome he was, Ji-Hwan placed his finger on the paper, looking up with innocent eyes to ask if he could finally sign his name. The woman barked at him to hurry up. Ji-Hwan quickly scribbled down a fake name, Kim Kapiara. He flashed the paper toward a hidden camera. The woman, confused, demanded to know what he was doing. Ji-Hwan asked if checking his spelling was forbidden, playing the fool. But suddenly, a piercing alarm began to scream through the shop. Carrera's voice exploded from his watch. Ji-Hwan announced his departure, but the shop door slammed shut with a deafening boom, sealing him in. A suffocating darkness swallowed the room. The old woman's voice echoed from the shadows, accusing him of deception. Ji-Hwan scanned the gloom, shouting that he was going to report her. He asked if she could hear him, but the atmosphere only grew heavier. He demanded answers, and suddenly, a beam of light sliced through the dark. Carrera was at the entrance, using her monstrous strength to pry the gate open. She screamed for the boy to move, her muscles straining as she warned she couldn't hold the barrier much longer. Ji-Hwan shouted that he knew it was a trap and sprinted for the exit. But the door began to morph. Drool dripped from the frame as it transformed into a gaping, monstrous mouth that Carrera was holding open. Ji-Hwan dashed through, leaving the girl behind. He screamed for his friend, but the living gate clamped shut, swallowing Carrera inside. Ji-Hwan spun around and screamed in horror. But suddenly, Young-jin blurred into motion, his sword striking the gate with thunderous force. The creature recoiled, spitting Carrera out onto the pavement. Ji-Soo caught the girl in her arms. Ji-Hwan could only stare at the protagonist, thinking he looked absolutely legendary in that moment. But the nightmare wasn't over. The door began to pry itself open again, and Ji-Hwan yelled a warning as the presence emerged. Young-jin flinched, raising his sword in defense. Ji-Hwan thought this looked like a scene from a cartoon, but reality was messy. Young-jin's swings at the tentacles were clumsy and desperate. It was total chaos. A massive fist suddenly slammed into the protagonist, sending him reeling. Ji-Soo scrambled back, frantically pulling exorcism incense sticks from her bag. Ji-Hwan wondered why the shaman's daughter was even here, but the girl tripped over her own feet. Ji-Hwan sighed, wondering how these statuesque heroes could be so unathletic. At this rate, they were all going to die. Young-jin was ensnared by the tentacles, gasping as the life was squeezed out of him. But then, Ji-Hwan spotted iron rods on the wall. Ji-Hwan grabbed a rod and unleashed his hidden strength. With the precision of a second-degree kendo black belt, he struck the tentacle, freeing his friend instantly. Ji-Soo gasped in shock. Ji-Hwan shouted, "Move, now." The group scrambled to escape, unaware that a sinister presence was still watching from the shadows. Safe in a nearby alley, Young-jin dropped his sword, gasping that he had run until his lungs burned. Ji-Hwan asked if everyone was all right. The protagonist spun around, fury blazing in his eyes, only to bow and apologize profusely in multiple languages. Young-jin confessed he had no idea the mission would be this dangerous, and he was deeply sorry for dragging them into the jaws of death. He sent the text hoping Ji-Soo would show up, but looking at this mess, he instantly regretted coming at all. Ji-Soo just shrugged. At least he had actually reached out. They had been in mortal danger. He told them bluntly that next time, he needed to warn them so they could face it as a team. Ji-Hwan blinked in surprise. They would actually go with him, but Young-jin shut it down cold. There would be no next time. Ji-Hwan tried to offer a handshake of truce, but the protagonist swatted his hand away like a fly. Still, Ji-Hwan was grateful. Young-jin could have easily walked away. Beneath that icy exterior lay a loyal and kind heart. Young-jin scoffed, finding the praise agonizingly awkward. He vowed that if trouble found them again, this would be their final contact. He sighed heavily. Why couldn't they just live like normal people? Ji-Hwan countered that normal people didn't chat with spirits. His eyes locked onto the massive, cartoonish blade. Desperate to know its origin, he reached out to touch it. But the weapon had a will of its own. It refused to let Ji-Hwan lay a finger on it. He theorized it was a barrier, claiming only chosen ones could wield such a blade. He rattled off legendary examples, but Young-jin dismissed it flatly as a jaku. Ji-Hwan jumped back as the dog suddenly barked. Young-jin explained calmly. That blade only reacted to the unholy. Ji-Soo stepped in to care for the animal, suggesting they find some water. Ji-Hwan looked confused. Did that dog run all the way here? Young-jin shook his head. Taxis didn't allow pets. He added a crucial detail. He had used the cash Ji-Hwan gave him to pay for a special cab. Ji-Hwan laughed, admitting it was money well spent for comfort. Young-jin didn't miss a beat. He reminded him to wire the rest directly to Ji-Soo. The girl checked on the ancestor spirit. Ji-Hwan's curiosity piqued again. Was this a spirit-sensitive dog? Did he bring it on exorcisms? The protagonist gave a silent nod. Ji-Hwan grinned. It was exactly like a Saturday morning cartoon. Suddenly, Carrera stirred. She blinked open her eyes, disoriented. Where was she? Seeing the four of them in the alley, panic set in. Ji-Hwan rushed to check on her. She trembled, recalling a nightmare. She had seen something truly bizarre. She needed answers. A monstrosity with teeth had appeared right at the shop's entrance. Wi-Soo noted the terror in her eyes. She was shaken to her core. Ji-Hwan decided it was time for business. Since everyone was awake, they needed to focus. He pulled out a device. There was something they all needed to see. The ghost's interference had corrupted the end of the recording, but luck was on their side. He had managed to capture the most critical moment. Meanwhile, back at the cursed shop, Dukong stumbled in calling for the old woman. He demanded to know the time remaining, but stopped cold. One of his arms was completely gone. He stared at the empty stump. Had he dissolved it in something? The old woman's voice rasped from the shadows. Some children wearing his school's uniform had paid them a visit. They had come to rescue the vessel's owner, and with them was a young man who was anything but ordinary. Dukong's face twisted in recognition. It had to be Young-jin, that strange guy who had even crushed him in a game. The old woman pressed for details. Dukong shuddered. That boy had thrown him across the room with a single finger. In his eyes, Young-jin was a monster, not a human. Even the old woman admitted defeat, though she brushed it off as a joke. Her focus remained sharp. She needed to know what that young man was truly capable of. She waved it off. It didn't matter now. They still had 49 hours before the body and soul were severed forever. Dukong suggested burning the talismans. The old woman sneered. She had instructed the kids to tear them, not burn them. The boy's rage flared at the complication. The crone cackled. Humans were pathetic creatures. They feigned calm, but were cowards at heart. A contract required insurance. After all, he used to be just like them. She was certain they wouldn't tear the talismans. Modern humans mocked spells. Deep down, they would rather pray for someone's ruin than save them. They would let them fall into misfortune. Dukong narrowed his eyes. How could she be so absolutely certain? The woman pointed to the siblings as living proof. She placed a hand on his stomach with a sinister grin. Even if they burned the talismans, he would not be destroyed. The power would simply return to him. It would crave to remain by his side. She asked if his cold eyes desired that outcome. Suddenly, the heavy atmosphere vanished. They both whipped around. A masked figure stood in the doorway, asking for permission to enter. Back in the alley, Wi-Soo's voice rang out. 15 hours had already slipped away. Ji-Hwan asked if the name Kim Sun-woo meant anything to them. Blank stares went around. They were at a dead end. There was nothing more to be done tonight. They would finish this tomorrow. They still had time on the clock. Carrera pointed to the list of names. How could he be sure? Sun-woo explained he found it at school. The strange symbol on the box matched the one on the paper perfectly. Young-jin identified it immediately. A Noryandu. Ji-Hwan asked for a translation. Wi-Soo listened to the dog's barks. The ancestor confirmed it was a spirit of betting. He recited from his mental encyclopedia. This was an ancient entity. It existed to make wagers with humans, testing their luck against fate. But there were no records of it ever losing a game. Young-jin realized that explained the odd or even bets. This was out of their league. They needed to report this to the high priestess immediately. Wi-Soo hesitated. Did she really have to ask her mother? Ji-Hwan cheered. They were going to meet a real shaman. Watching from a distance, Carrera was baffled. Were they actually talking to the dog? Wi-Soo sighed. Since they weren't spiritually open, they would never hear the truth. Ji-Hwan groans in frustration, complaining about his lack of spiritual sensitivity. He can't see a thing. Gaun frowns, muttering, this whole situation is surreal and twisted. But Wi-Soo translates the dog's growl. Young-jin's ancestor refuses to be touched in such a casual manner. Suddenly, the dog delivers a sharp slap to her hand. Time skips forward, and Wi-Soo's mother calls with a grave warning. They must burn the talisman immediately. It radiates dangerous magic. She frantically asks if everyone is safe. explaining that merely watching the video footage gave her a splitting migraine. Fortunately, the group is unharmed. The shaman reveals the terrifying truth. The old woman they encountered is a muyugwi. This is a malicious spirit that harvests human souls to create spiritual familiars. It creates a pocket dimension born from cursed, antique objects. The names of the living are inscribed in a dark registry, a binding contract that thieves their very essence. But dark magic demands a price. Neither the caster nor the victim walks away unscathed. Once 49 hours pass, the victim's body will be fully possessed, and the caster's soul will be trapped within the talisman forever. After that deadline, salvation is impossible. But the truly chilling part is the loophole. If they destroy the talisman before the time is up, the possessed child returns to normal. However, the debt must be paid. The one who cast the curse will have their soul dragged away by the mediator of the underworld. Gaun scoffs coldly, saying the culprit deserves it. The shaman sympathizes with her anger, but insists they bring the cursed child to her sanctuary. The mission is clear: find the culprit and burn the talisman before the 49-hour clock runs out. The next day at school, the hunt begins. Gaun and Ji-Hwan throw open classroom doors, while Wi-Soo searches frantically for a student named Kim Sunwoo. In the second classroom, a student calls out, "Kim Sunwoo." A boy stands up from his desk, eyes wide, asking who is looking for him. Young-jin steps forward, confirming his identity. He sighs, wondering why fate made him the one to find the culprit. He stares the boy down and asks about the talisman. Panic flashes in Sunwoo's eyes. He bolts instantly. Young-jin yells for him to wait, stunned by the boy's explosive agility. Young-jin tries to give chase, but his legs feel like lead. He gasps for air, his entire body aching as if an invisible weight is crushing him. Gaun shouts, asking if he found Sunwoo. Seeing the target flee, she launches herself forward, shattering the 100-meter dash record in a blur of speed. She corners him. Ji-Hwan catches up, demanding to know if Sunwoo offered his own hair and fingernails to seal the dark contract. Sunwoo trembles, admitting he knows the Kasti offered his life to the spirit. Gaun grabs him by the collar, ordering him to hand over the talisman unless he has a death wish. Sunwoo stammers, accusing her of lying. Wi-Soo steps in, her voice grave, while Ji-Hwan points out that they are dealing with a real shaman's warning. Gaun explains the escape clause. If they burn the talisman now, the curse breaks. Sunwoo looks up, hope warring with fear, asking if the spirit will vanish too. She nods firmly. Yes, we can put everything back to the way it was. He just needs to hand it over. But suddenly, Sunwoo's expression hardens. He refuses. Ji-Hwan and Young-jin explode in disbelief, calling it absolute madness. Tears stream down Sunwoo's face. He screams that it's too late, he'd rather lose his life than give up now. Meanwhile, miles away, the old hag chants Sunwoo's name, projecting it onto her own forehead. The dark ritual to bind their souls has begun. Sunwoo sobs, claiming his life is already ruined, and that everyone despises him anyway. He is convinced that even if he survives, they will spread rumors and destroy what little reputation he has left. Young-jin realizes this kid has deep-seated issues. Ji-Hwan clenches his fists, his patience snapping at the boy's stubbornness. Sunwoo admits he never thought it would go this far. Young-jin tries to reason with him, urging him to just surrender the talisman so everyone can walk away alive. Sunwoo bargains through his tears. If Do-kyung apologizes, he'll return it. He screams that they don't know the real Do-kyung, the arrogant hypocrite hiding behind a nice mask. He claims Do-kyung mocks and ignores people when no one is watching. If Do-kyung returns, he'll just act humble again. But it's all a sick performance. A flashback hits. Sunwoo remembers his days at Gaeyeon High. The sound of Do-kyung's voice was like nails on a chalkboard to him. He wondered how he ended up in the same class as these elites. Assuming the system sorted them by grades, he felt completely out of place. The scene shifts to the election. The class discusses if Sunwoo should remain president or if they need fresh blood. A student nominates Do-kyung. The suggestion catches fire, and others agree instantly. The class moves to cast their ballots. Do-kyung plays the humble saint, saying Sunwoo should stay president. But the results are brutal. 16 votes to 2. The students whisper that the outcome was obvious. Sunwoo seethes. He tells himself it's just a popularity contest. He believes a president should work hard, unlike Do-kyung who just chats in the back. The students whisper about who cast the to-pity votes. They joke that Sunwoo probably voted for himself. Sunwoo burns with humiliation. They don't care about merit. They're just playing games. He can't fathom how someone can steal another person's opportunity so casually. Later, Sunwoo unfolds a paper, only to overhear a crushing conversation. Do-kyung ranked first in the entire class. He's rich, handsome, and brilliant, a monster who is everything. Sunwoo freezes. It doesn't make sense. How can a human being like that exist? He realizes Do-kyung's humble act before the vote was the confidence of a king who knew he'd already won. Frustration tears at Sunwoo's insides. He imagines Do-kyung laughing at him from behind that perfect smile. He screams his truth. Do-kyung pretends to be an angel, but deep down, he is rotten to the core. Carrera admitted defeat. He had only wanted the presidency, but he failed. Now, he was spiraling out of control. Sunwoo cut him off sharply, declaring there was something far more critical at stake. It was time for the real operation. Carrera laid it out plain and simple. They had to confront him head-on to seize that cursed talisman. Flashback to the Sampo high entrance ceremony. Do-kyung tapped Sunwoo on the shoulder. The realization hit him hard. This elite guy attended his school. His physique was insane. He had to know they were classmates. But then, Do-kyung called him partner and asked if his name was Jong-han. Sunwoo stood frozen, the insult fueling a burning frustration. Ji-Hwan tried to play peacemaker, claiming it is normal to forget a name. But Sunwoo dug his heels and there was no way that guy could have forgotten him by accident. Carrera shook his head. He claimed to hate Do-kyung, but this actually made sense. He really shouldn't remember him. Ji-Hwan dropped the missing puzzle piece. Sunwoo hadn't told them the most important part. He transferred schools immediately after that ceremony. Nobody remembers a student who vanishes at the start of the semester. Do-kyung didn't know his name simply because they were barely in the same class for a day. But Sunwoo didn't care about logic. He was just hoping Do-kyung was a hypocrite, desperately forcing a justification for his own hatred all along. Sunwoo spat out his venom. Hypocrite or not, that kind of person should just disappear. The world was a massive, unfair mess, and he was sick of it. He worked himself to the bone, yet his life remained stagnant. It was a raw deal, watching a guy like that be born with the world at his feet. Ji-Hwan realized the root of the malice. Sunwoo truly believed everything was just handed to Do-kyung on a silver platter. Sunwoo confirmed it without hesitation. He was born into a prestigious family, backed by power, ahead of everyone else from the very starting line. That kind of person shouldn't exist. But Carrera roared back, telling him he had completely lost his mind. Do-kyung had always worked twice as hard to surpass others precisely because he had been hated by people like Sunwoo before. He was terrified of that resentment. But Sunwoo scoffed. That was exactly the point. He was just preparing his act, curating a perfect image to defend himself from any future controversy. Ji-Hwan asked why he was so twisted, wondering if the talisman had corrupted his mind. But Young-jin shut that down. It was useless to blame the magic. The boy asked if Young-jin was defending the enemy. The protagonist replied that he used to think the same way. But here is the cold truth: it changes nothing. If Do-kyung disappears, Sunwoo's situation won't improve. The world won't suddenly become fair. Absolutely nothing would change. He would just keep seeing people like Do-kyung everywhere and repeat this pointless cycle of jealousy. However, if Do-kyung vanishes, Sunwoo will have only caused one tragedy. Even if he possesses Do-kyung's body, he will have erased a human existence from the world, and he would go on with his life as if nothing happened. Now that is the definition of hypocrisy. In the past, Sunwoo stared at the situation, wondering if he could really handle Do-kyung. He wanted the scales to balance. This was Do-kyung's true face in his mind. He wondered if the school would know by tomorrow, if he would face suspension. But back home, staring at the cursed talisman, the weight of 49 hours crashed down on him. This wasn't a prank. He was about to cause someone's actual disappearance. He prepared to tear the talisman, telling himself it was enough. Do-kyung's reputation was already ruined. Yet, his hands froze. He couldn't bring himself to destroy it. The memory of Duke Young's face haunted him. He wondered if the guy would show up to confront him. He never dreamed the curse would be this real. It was a nightmare scenario. But even then, he convinced himself he couldn't have acted any other way. It was all Duke Young's fault for acting like someone he is not. That is why this happened. He brought this on himself. Sun Woo wept as the memories flooded back. But in the present, his body made the same move. He asked, trembling, what he was going to do now that the deed was done. Young-jin commanded him to hand over the talisman immediately. Ji-Hwan watched, confused, asking if this was some sort of manga protagonist transformation scene. He subtly feigned solidarity, offering a soft criticism that only reinforced how useless their struggle felt. But it was actually working. Sun Woo searched his pockets. Suddenly, the sorceress completed her spell, her voice commanding him to disappear. Sun Woo collapsed to the floor like a puppet with cut strings. Carrera screamed, panic exploding in his voice. He was supposed to grab the talisman now, but Sun Woo mumbled that he needed to go to his mother's house. Then, with inhuman force, he broke free from the girl's grip. Carrera and the others stood paralyzed. The boy had just launched himself out of the window. Only his shoe tumbled to the ground. Mid-air, the boy suddenly snapped back to his senses. Panic seized him as he asked why he was doing this. He turned to see Young-jin, who hissed at him to stay quiet. Sun Woo begged to be saved, screaming that he didn't want to disappear. Young-jin roared at him to stop struggling while the others formed a desperate human chain. To pull him up, the protagonist warned that if this kept up, gravity would take them all. And that was exactly what was happening. They were all dangling over the abyss. Young-jin gritted his teeth, unleashing his draconic strength to haul the boy back from the brink of death. Ji-Hwan asked if he was okay, but the protagonist just barked at him to let go now that they were safe. Sun Woo looked back, trembling. Young-jin asked if he was crazy. Why did he jump? The boy stammered that he didn't do it. Someone told him to. His memory was a blank void. Ji-Hwan realized the horror. When they said disappear, they meant it literally. Wi-Soo shouted that they needed to burn the talisman immediately. But then, his eyes locked onto the object around Sun Woo's neck. It was that item from the antique shop. Suddenly, the artifact began to sear his skin. The boy cried out that it was burning hot. Carrera yelled that the talisman was reacting. He had to rip it off right now. The seal is broken. Shira snatches the talisman in a heartbeat, clutching the only hope they have left. Tension suffocates the room. Should they burn it? Shira flicks her lighter, but Deok-young suddenly blows out the flame like a birthday candle. A chilling melody escapes his lips, the happy birthday song. A twisted grin spreads across his face. He claims today is his rebirth day, and the real Deok-young is history. Ji-Hwan snaps, tackling the possessed boy to the concrete floor. Ji-Hwan screams for the ritual to continue. The gambler groans under the weight, annoyed by these pests pinning him down like animals. Young-jin barks the command, burn it now. Shira ignites the paper, and the holy fire catches instantly, consuming the talisman. As the paper turns to ash, Deok-young goes limp. Sun Woo holds his breath, asking if it worked, while Ji-Hwan shakes his friend. Desperate for a response, suddenly the boy's eyes snap open. He scrambles up, bowing apologetically. He says he is so sorry, but Deok-young vanished yesterday. A manic laugh erupts from his throat. He points at their horrified faces, mocking their sheer despair with pure sadism. What do you idiots think you're doing? He sneers. Wi-Soo trembles in disbelief. It's impossible, the 49-hour limit hasn't passed yet. The gambler stands tall. Ji-Hwan argues he delivered the talisman, and Sun Woo confirms it. But the monster just shrugs. That scrap of paper is worthless trash to him now. The team freezes in shock. The gambler declares the seal void. All their desperate struggles were for absolutely nothing. Ji-Hwan senses a glitch in the logic. The rule was 49 hours. But before he can finish, the gambler seizes him by the collar, eyes burning with malice. Asterisk crunch, asterisk, he smashes the hidden camera on Ji-Hwan's vest. He leans in, whispering that he knew about their little toy from the start. It was far too quiet. He had been hunting for it, playing along until the original owner of this body faded into the abyss. Don't cry, he taunts, his voice dripping with venom. You'll be joining your pathetic friend in the afterlife soon enough. Flashback to that fateful night. A masked man cornered the old shaman woman. He offered a devil's bargain, anything she desired in exchange for a deal. The possessed Ji-Hwan demands to know who this intruder is. How dare he spout nonsense in his domain? The spirit warns him to know his place, but with a casual snap of his fingers, the masked man blasts the spirit backward with invisible force. The old woman screams, rushing to shield her son. She calls the intruder insolent and unleashes her full spiritual pressure. Reality warps, ancient artifacts scream as the room twists, but the masked man merely taps his mask, deflecting her ultimate attack with an impenetrable barrier. In an instant, chaos reverts to order. The shop is silent. The storm is quelled by his overwhelming presence. The old woman trembles. What is this monster? The masked man sneers. She is just a construct of a human soul, and she has overstepped her bounds. It took her 49 hours just to snare one soul using amateur magic. Pathetic. She demands his purpose. The masked man drops the bombshell, the 49-hour restriction. He can erase it completely. The spirits are stunned. The deal is simple. Capture that abnormal boy, Young-jin, and bring him in. Bring him alive, and I grant your wish. Back in the present, Young-jin effortlessly parries the gambler's strike. That's enough, Young-jin warns. The gambler smirks, grabbing Ji-Hwan as a hostage. He asks if Young-jin is finally ready to finish their tied game. How about we raise the stakes? He hisses, eyes gleaming with madness. If I win, I leave this body and return your friend. But if I lose, your life belongs to me. The protagonist freezes. The gambler adds a dark incentive: refuse, and he will slaughter every single person here. Ji-Hwan tries to offer his own life instead, but the gambler barks at him to shut up. He only wants the head of Young-jin. The protagonist accepts the challenge. Everyone gasps. But he sets a condition. The showdown happens after school. Until then, the monster stays on a leash. The gambler releases Ji-Hwan. Deal. Come to the antique shop when the bell rings. And come alone, he warns. He tugs Ji-Hwan closer one last time. Step foot in that shop, and you die. Later, in the science lab, Ji-Hwan paces. This is a classic trap straight out of a horror story. Going solo is suicide, and a demon's promise is worth nothing. Shai-Ra is confused. They burned the talisman in time, yet the curse remains. Ji-Hwan is still gone. Ji-Hwan feels a cold dread settle in his stomach. A terrifying theory forms. Ji-Hwan isn't just possessed, he's been turned into a servant. Shai-Ra interrupts, begging Young-jin not to go. Wi-Soo argues the soul must be trapped. Ji-Hwan connects the dots. It has to be the antique shop. The gambler lured them there, and the shaman confirmed it's a factory for soul servants. He warned the others to stay away, because Ji-Hwan's soul is physically inside. The gambler is undefeated, but his pride might force him to honor the bet. That is their only reality. Shai-Ra argues the odds are terrible. If Young-jin loses, he dies too. But Ji-Hwan has faith. The gambler called their last fight a draw. It is a 50-50 shot, a risk worth taking. Young-jin analyzes the situation. The enemy wants his life, but not his body. And it all comes down to the power hidden within his left hand. The words of ancestor Jin echoed in his mind. His left arm wasn't just a limb. It was forged from the essence of a black dragon. A weapon rather than a weakness. He dialed Wi-Soo immediately. That fight earlier. The one who fought wasn't me. It was Ji-Hwan who took control, Young-jin insisted. Wi-Soo corrected him sharply. He handled the end. Yes, but before that, it was you, Young-jin. Or at least, it was your body acting on instinct after the madness took hold. The protagonist rubbed his temples. His memory of the event was a complete void. Everything after the initial clash was lost to the darkness. A chilling realization struck him. If his suspicion was correct, Wi-Soo, he asked slowly, did I fight using only my left hand? Wait, Wi-Soo paused, confusion coloring her voice. Are you left-handed? I never asked. She turned, mimicking a swordsman's stance. Now that you mention it, yes, you only used your left. Young-jin's eyes narrowed. There's a method to this madness, and I think I know how to harness it. He made his decision. I'm going alone, he declared. channeling the spirit of a gambler. The team immediately protested. Ji-Hwan sighed heavily. You're really following every hero cliché in the book, aren't you? It's suicide to go solo, Wi-Soo argued, her voice laced with worry. But Young-jin cut her off. If we go as a group, we're just bigger targets. I won't risk everyone's lives on a hunch. Wi-Soo looked ready to object again, but Young-jin raised a hand. I won't be entirely alone. The ancestor is coming with me. And what exactly does he do? Ji-Hwan asked, eyeing the empty air skeptically. Wi-Soo deadpanned, mostly. He just floats there and judges us. Twilight descended over the city. Ancestor Jin floated beside him, smirking. The sun must be rising in the west today. To think my cowardly descendant would volunteer for a monster hunt. If I don't act, I die, Young-jin replied, his grip tightening. I'm done watching from the sidelines. The spirit laughed softly. Finally, now you sound like a true heir of my bloodline. The protagonist rolled his eyes at the spectral praise, but the banter died down as they stopped. They stood before the antique shop. The dog ancestor Jin's current vessel sniffed the air and growled. This is the place. The energy here is thick with malice. Stay sharp, boy. Darkness clings to this building. How do we even find him in this mess? Young-jin muttered, straining to hear any movement. Should I just shout his name and hope he invites us in? They stepped across the threshold. Ancestor Jin instantly recoiled. Ugh, what is that stench? It smells like rotting souls. It's revolting, the spirit gagged. Young-jin cupped his hands. Qian duck gong. Come out. Silence answered him, but the dog's ears perked up. Wait, quiet. Something is watching us from the corner. The dog barked a frantic warning. Get out. Now. But it was too late. Reality warped. The shop walls melted away, transforming into a pulsating, grotesque organic nightmare. Young-jin reached for his blade, but his instinct screamed. His left hand locked up. Before he could react, tentacles made of raw meat erupted from the walls, binding his arm tight. He struggled against the grotesque grip, helpless. A massive tendril reared back to strike. Suddenly, a flash of steel sliced through the air. The tentacle was severed clean. Qian duck gong stepped out of the shadows, his blade dancing as he carved through the meat. I told you not to enter the shop, kid, he sighed, slicing another approaching limb. He grabbed Young-jin by the collar. We're leaving. He dragged him toward the exit, leaving the dog behind. The ancestor barked helplessly, trapped in the writhing, organic mass. The fleshy slime coalesced into a giant, distorted human face, screeching, You! How dare you betray me? A glowing seal materialized on Qian duck gong's neck. He grinned like a maniac, touching the mark. Betray no, the contract is void. I'm finally free. They landed on a nearby rooftop. Duck gong threw his head back, laughing wildly. Did you see the look on that old hag's face? Young-jin hissed, Shut up. You saved me, but you also nearly got me killed. I tried to be gentle, Duck gong shrugged, his demeanor shifting instantly. Rage flared in his eyes. He smashed his fist into the concrete, ripping out a chunk of the building in frustration. Qian duck gong turned, stalking toward Young-jin on the ground. His eyes burned with predatory intent. He tossed a die into the air, snatching it with a cup. Instantly, multiple cups materialized on the rooftop floor. What is this magic? Young-jin demanded, scrambling back. We were betting our lives anyway, Duck gong smirked. Let's make it official. His hands became a blur. The die vanished, shuffling between cups at godlike speed. He slammed the cups down. The sound echoed like a gunshot. Go ahead, Duck gong taunted, his eyes gleaming. Guess where it is? Young-jin's mind raced. He hadn't seen a thing, but suddenly, his left hand moved on its own. Possessed by the dragon's will, it reached out and lifted a cup. The die was there. Qian duck gong's jaw dropped. Impossible. That was a 1 in 100 chance. How did you track that? Beginner's luck, Young-jin scoffed. Duck gong slammed the table. Best of 3, shut up and play. This time, whoever rolls the highest number wins. He cast the die across the roof. It clattered and spun. Young-jin frowned. Why the sudden? He stopped. The die settled on a 6. I didn't even agree to this. Young-jin protested, pointing at the result. And you've already won. You can't beat a 6. I'm done playing. Young-jin turned to leave, but his left hand betrayed him again. It snatched the die. Hey, what are you doing? Duck-gong yelled. Young-jin tried to fight his own limb, but the hand slammed the die onto the concrete with crushing force. Duck-gong sneered internally. Asterisk, it doesn't matter. That die is loaded. No matter how hard you throw it, it only ever rolls a 1. Asterisk. He was sure of his victory, but Young-jin's draconic strength had pulverized the cube. They both stared in silence. The shattered pieces displayed a 1 and a 6. 7, Young-jin whispered. That's cheating. Duck-gong screamed, his face twisting in fury. You broke the die. That doesn't count. Young-jin shrugged, his voice cold and steady. Show me the rule that says I can't break it. According to common sense, you should have established the terms before we started. Duck-gong's laughter returned, low and menacing. His aura flared, distorting the air around him. I like you. I really feel the urge to crush you now. The contract didn't say I had to bring you in one piece, the gambler growled, cracking his knuckles. I just need to drag you back while you're still breathing. He vanished. Sonic booms erupted as he closed the distance. Young-jin didn't flinch. His left hand flew to his hilt. Draconic energy flooded the blade as he swung. A single slash. The shockwave split the rooftop and sent debris flying. Duck-gong was forced back, skidding across the gravel to avoid being bisected. Young-jin leveled his blade at the enemy, staring at his own arm in disbelief. When did I even draw my sword? Duck-gong's eyes widened in horror. You're not human. That power makes no sense. His left hand flashes, the sword singing through the air with lethal intent. The demon scowls, irritation radiating off him, but Young-jin screams that he didn't do it. Another round of dice. No. Duck-young's possessed form sneers this game has lost its thrill. Young-jin roars that the first round was his victory without a doubt. He demands the return of Chan Duck-young immediately, but the demon waves him off dismissively. Duck-young is gone. He is no longer part of this equation. Young-jin insists on the terms of their bet, but the entity laughs. If he wants the boy so badly, he can drag the body away and perform an exorcism himself. Of course, that's assuming he can survive the overwhelming demonic energy flooding the area. The beast lunges once more, claws outstretched, suddenly snap. A spirit weapon tethered to a rope whistles through the air, wrapping tight around the demon and slamming him into the concrete. Duck-young's body thrashes, writhing in pain as he screams, confusion twisting his features. Ji-Hwan steps from the shadows, lights out for the monster. Young-jin is stunned, asking how they found him. Jin-woo points to his chest. Check the tie. A tracker. The protagonist spots the device blinking on his clothes. They apologize, panic in their eyes. They were worried sick. They knew he warned them to stay away, but they couldn't let him face this nightmare alone. The danger was too great. Besides, one friend boasts, his swordsmanship is clearly superior. Wi-Soo shouts for him to unleash his hidden power just like before. But the atmosphere shifts instantly. The sky turns pitch black as ominous energy coalesces above. Two massive dice barrels materialize from thin air. In a blink, the two are trapped. The demon, hovering arrogantly in the void, lands with a smirk, asking what that interruption was about. Young-jin had been warned to come alone. The protagonist looks on with apprehension as Duck-young says things are about to get very interesting. With a wave of his hand, magic ripples through the air, summoning yet another barrel. The barrels blur, spinning at godlike speeds. Young-jin's eyes strain to track them, but it's impossible. The demon stops the motion instantly, balancing three towering barrels in a perfect stack. Young-jin demands an explanation. The monster grins. Only one is empty. */ he cuts one barrel in half. Empty. That was the dud. The protagonist screams for Ji-Hwan and Wi-Soo, but the gambling demon laughs. It's useless. The moment they entered those vessels, they were cut off from reality. But anyway, now a choice must be made. He can only save one. Young-jin freezes, horror dawning on him. The demon swears whoever he picks won't even know what hit them when they meet their end. He finds it quite pitiful these poor souls marched right into the tiger's den just to save him. But now, one of them is destined to perish, and it is all the protagonist's fault. "Release them," Young-jin pleads, offering his own life in exchange. He'll give the demon whatever he wants, but the creature scoffs. Why accept a deal he could have forced back at the school? This entire bet was purely for his own amusement. He demands a choice now. Young-jin must pick quickly. The air inside those barrels is finite. No vents, no escape. As the seconds tick by, he will be forced to watch his friends suffocate. He mimics their gasping breaths, mocking Young-jin as the protagonist's heart begins to hammer against his ribs. Young laughs maniacally, telling him to look at his own face. Despair suits him well. This is the punishment for being so annoying. He taps a barrel with a wicked grin. A little hint, the girl is in this one. Laughter echoes through the darkness while Young-jin stares back, his gaze turning icy cold. Dragon energy begins to surge through Young-jin's veins, a torrential river of power. But he holds back. Striking blindly could destroy Young's body. If he shatters the barrels, he risks slicing his friends in half. Desperation claws at him. How can he save everyone? The black dragon roars within his soul. He grips the sword until his knuckles turn white. Instinct takes over. He moves without a second thought. He vanishes. An explosion of speed leaves trails of pure aura in his wake. The demon's eyes widen to fast. The blade sings, slicing through the barrels with surgical precision. Inside, Ji-Hwan is freed, the steel curving miraculously around his body without a scratch. He saves them both, but the strike didn't end there. It slammed directly into Young. This is the Shaman Sword, a blade that cuts only the unholy. Ji-Hwan hits the ground, checking his limbs. He's safe. The technique ignored the humans and targeted only the evil spirit. The gambling demon is blasted out of the vessel, slamming into the ground. The spirit writhes, weakened and exposed. Ji-Hwan tries to record the entity, but the magnetic field is too chaotic. Young-jin barks an order, grab Young and get out of here, now. The gambling demon is baffled, trembling before the strange, overwhelming pressure of the black dragon now consuming the protagonist. Ji-Hwan hesitates, but the protagonist turns his back. They have to go on ahead. He will follow as soon as this is finished. Wi-Soo cries out they can't leave him behind. But Young-jin shakes his head. If he stays with them, the overflow of power puts them all at risk. They must run. Ji urges the group to retreat, realizing they would only be a burden in this high-stakes clash. Judging by the battered state of the gambling demon, it is clear that Young-jin has the battlefield completely under his control. The demon struggles to rise, rage burning in his eyes, but his counterattack is futile. Young-jin intercepts every movement with surgical precision, shutting down the enemy before he can even strike. He unleashes a relentless barrage of attacks, giving the beast no room to breathe. Watching from the sidelines, Ji-Hwan lets out a breath of relief, seeing that the situation is firmly in hand. Terror creeps into the demon's heart as he senses the overwhelming energy radiating from his opponent. He refuses to accept this reality until the terrifying image of the masked man flashes through his mind. Suddenly, his demonic form swells with grotesque power. Thick, ominous smoke pours from his body as a dark transformation begins to take hold. Young-jin watches in confusion as the beast writhes in agony, wondering what triggered this sudden shift. Deep within the demon's consciousness, the masked man's command echoes, "Bring the target back alive, no matter the cost." The scene shifts to a tense confrontation elsewhere. The old woman insists that he is more than capable of handling the task on his own. But the mysterious man scoffs, replying that if she were right, he would not have wasted his time coming to a place like this. She calls him insolent, but bitterly admits that it seems they never had a choice to begin with. Coldly, the man declares that he will make the necessary preparations to ensure their success. He casts a mystic seal onto her forehead and another onto Young's neck. The ink seeps into their skin, and the gambling demon roars in confusion as a surge of foreign power violently hijacks his body. Shocked by the sudden influx of strength, the demon glances to the side. To his amazement, the old woman's severed arm has completely regenerated. The air grows heavy with dread. She is no longer human. She is twisting and transforming into a monstrosity straight out of a nightmare.